Chapter 130. Sangwon, on the other hand, was furious. Just yesterday, Sangwon came knocking on her door to accuse her of being wronged and vowed that she would apologize to her if she was wrong. Today, when they met, not only did Sangwon avoid her with a guilty conscience, she even dared to be so arrogant. Did she really think that Sangwon was a pushover? Big sister. Sangwon turned around and called out to Yume. Yume stopped and turned around to stare coldly at Sangwon. She raised her eyebrows and said, "Are you calling me? Is something the matter?" "Yes. There's something I want to tell big sister." Sangwon nodded and smiled. She signaled the servants to leave and walked to the side of the path. "Can big sister come over for a moment? Just say what you want to say. Why are you being so mysterious?" Yume said as she walked towards her. With the cover of a bunch of camellias that were taller than a person's head, everyone could only vaguely see her clothes and hair. "What's the truth about yesterday's matter? Big sister seems to owe me an apology?" Sangwon looked straight at Yume with an indescribable coldness. Yume had never thought that Sangwon would have such a side to her. She suddenly widened her eyes in surprise and screamed, "What did you say? Why are you so loud? Are you feeling guilty? I'm asking you, when are you going to apologize to me?" Sangwon smiled gently. Yume was so angry that her body trembled. Her face turned green and white as she spat on the ground. "You're not worthy." Sangwon's eyes were full of ridicule. She sneered. "You said it yourself. I didn't force you. If I was the one who was wrong yesterday, would you let it go so easily? Besides, I'm the Sure family's young mistress. How am I not worthy? Mistress run." Yume's face turned pale. She stared at Sangwon in disbelief. Her nose flared up and down nervously. She was so angry that she could not speak. Sangwon's last sentence was tantamount to stabbing her heart with a knife. She was clearly telling her that in this mansion, she was the mistress of the house, and she was someone from another family. "Forget it. I'm too lazy to argue with you." Sangwon raised her eyebrows and sneered. "Anyway, it's not easy for you, so I can understand. But this is the only time. Next time, don't blame me for being impolite." What are you?" Yume huffed angrily. "You're just a poor country bumpkin. What right do you have to strut around in our Sure family? How dare you lecture me? How dare you talk to me like that? You wicked woman from the countryside. I want Fengju to divorce you. I will definitely make him divorce you." Sangwon was also angry. She sneered and said, "Yes, I am a poor country girl, so what? That's also the Sure family's young mistress, whom your Sure family welcomed with 3 matchmakers, 6 betrothal gifts and 8 palanquins." "Madam Ren, it doesn't seem like it's up to a married woman to make decisions in the Sure family, right? If you can talk to me like that, why can't I talk back to you? If you want Fengju to divorce me, then go ahead and tell him. What's the use of telling me?" The shock and anger in Yume's heart was like a tidal wave that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. There were simply no words to describe it. There was only an angry voice that repeatedly screamed from the bottom of her heart. "This wicked woman! This wicked woman! Don't think that just because your second brother got Jiyuan, you're so great. The Sure family doesn't need a relative like Jiyuan to put up a front. Fengju and my cousin Fangzi are childhood sweethearts. They're innocent and affectionate. Divorcing you and marrying her, that's exactly what Fengju wants." The angrier Sangwon was, the calmer her expression. She sneered. "So what if I feel great that my second brother got Jiyuan? I'm just proud of him. If you have the ability, then your family should have one too. What's the point of being sarcastic? That Gu Fangzi is just a concubine. Even if Fengju divorces me, he won't marry her. If you don't believe me, you can ask him. Besides, times have changed. How could Fengju fancy a despicable person like Gu Fangzi? Only you can get along with her. If you don't believe me, then go ahead and say it to Fengju." "Shut up." Yume pointed at her and said with a trembling voice, "You dare to call me a despicable person? Sangwon, you be *tch." Yume's raised hand that was about to hit her, but it was firmly held by Sangwon. "Big sister, stop making a scene. If I don't let you have your way, what can you do to me?" Yume shook off her hand angrily and sneered. Fine, fine, I've misjudged you. A country bumpkin is indeed a country bumpkin with no upbringing. I don't believe that Fengju will still want you after seeing your true colors. Take a mirror and look at yourself before you talk about others. Sangwon sneered disdainfully and said, If you think he will believe you, then go ahead and say it. Don't provoke me in the future. It's best if we don't cross each other's paths. Otherwise, don't blame me. I don't believe you can do anything to me. Just by you. My mother isn't dead yet. You don't have the final say in this household. Sure, you may shouted angrily. You can give it a try. Sangwon said coldly and left. That wicked woman. That wicked woman. Sure, Yume was so angry that her legs went soft, and she almost fell to the ground. It wasn't until her maidservant came to support her that she let out a long sigh and left angrily. Sure, Yume originally wanted to go to Peony Park to tell Gu Fengzi about this matter, and discuss countermeasures with Gu Fengzi. But she suddenly changed her mind. She was ridiculed and humiliated by Sangwon. How could she let others know about such a shameful thing? No. No one but herself could know about it. Otherwise, if those servants who wanted to curry favor with Sangwon were to find out, who knew what they would say about her? She was the eldest daughter of the Shi family. How could she let others gossip about her? Let's go back. Sure, Yume let out a long sigh. Old mistress, aren't you going to stroll around the garden? Xiao Shuang smiled. What stroll? Sure, Yume's anger was reignited and she sneered. What's there to stroll around in other people's gardens? Meeting Xiao Shuang's startled eyes, Sure, Yume regretted her slip of the tongue, and felt that it was meaningless. She pointed her finger at Xiao Shuang's forehead. You talk too much. Go back. Sangwon vented the pent-up anger in her heart. She was happy at that time, but after that, she felt a little regretful and uneasy. She thought to herself, now that she has something to use against me, I don't know how she will complain to mother-in-law and young master. Forget it. She had already said what she should and shouldn't say. She couldn't control what she wanted to do. At most, she would just write a divorce letter. Sangwon calmly waited for the storm to come. Unexpectedly, a day passed peacefully, and nothing happened. Mother-in-law did not send anyone to summon her. And Shi Fengju did not mention a word when he came back at night. Lying in bed at night, Sangwon still felt like she was in a dream. After breakfast the next day, she went to pay her respects to mother-in-law. Sure, Yume's face changed slightly when she saw her. She turned her face away and ignored her, but she did not speak in a strange way like she did in the past. Sangwon's heart was suddenly enlightened. So she did not tell anyone about what happened yesterday. It was inevitable that she would hate her, but it seemed that she was more afraid. At least, she did not dare to ridicule and humiliate her so blatantly. She had to admit that some people were really despicable. Sangwon sneered in her heart. Daughter-in-law pays respect to mother. Sangwon went forward and curtsied. Well, good, get up. Sit down and talk. Wang smiled as usual and raised her hand. Then, as usual, she chatted with Sangwon about trivial matters. The only difference was that Shi Yume was particularly silent today. She sat beside Wang and did not say a word. Yume, what's wrong? Did something happen? Wang finally noticed her daughter's abnormality and asked with concern. Shi Yume glanced at Sangwon and saw that Sangwon was still smiling infuriatingly. She could not help but feel aggrieved and snorted. Nothing. I just saw a fly yesterday and felt disgusted. You're talking nonsense again. Wang laughed and said, how could there be a fly in this season? Even if there was, would you feel disgusted after seeing it yesterday? It's just a fly. Why are you so calculative? You're all listless. Wan Yang, don't you think so? Sangwon smiled and said, Mother is right. But there are no absolutes in this world. Not to mention big sister. I also saw a fly yesterday. This kind of thing is the most annoying and disgusting. It can't be beaten or driven away. It buzzes around people indiscriminately. It's very annoying. No wonder big sister is in a bad mood today. Shi Yume stared at Sangwon with her eyes wide open. She choked and could not say anything. Wang Shi took it seriously and said in surprise, Is that so? What a coincidence. Sangwon smiled and said, But Wan Yang didn't take it seriously and didn't care. I didn't think it would affect big sister. If big sister is not feeling well, then have a good rest. Mother, I won't disturb you anymore. I'll go back first. Go. Wang smiled and waved her hand. Sangwon smiled and left. Suddenly, she turned around and smiled at Yume. "Oh right, big sister. If there are flies disturbing big sister's mood again, there must be a problem with the sanitation of our residence. Don't forget to tell me so that I can send people to carefully clean and disinfect everywhere." Yume's face became even uglier. She snorted and did not say anything. "Yume, what's wrong with you?" Wang pushed Yume and said with a frown. "Wanyang has good intentions. How can you be like this?" Wanyang, it's okay. You go do what you need to do. Ah. Your big sister's temper is like this. Mother, maybe big sister is in a bad mood today because of the flies. How can I argue with big sister? Then I'll go first. Sangwon smiled and turned to leave. Hypocrite. Yume finally couldn't hold back her anger. As soon as Sangwon went out, she said coldly, "Yume." Wang scolded with a sullen face. "Why is your temper becoming more and more strange? Wanyang has good intentions. How can you say that? What will Wanyang think if she hears you?" "Mother, don't worry." Yume sneered and said, "She's powerful. She won't be defeated so easily. You're worrying too much." Presumptuous. The more you speak, the more outrageous you are. Wang slammed the tea table and shouted with a cold face, "Yume, I'm warning you, don't speak with such sarcasm in the future. What did Wanyang do to you? Why are you always picking on her? Just take the matter of the day before yesterday. After that, she didn't mention it at all. She also didn't force you to apologize. Hasn't she been patient enough? You're her elder sister, but you don't have the least bit of tolerance. You're still pushing her around. To be honest, if the matter of the day before yesterday was reversed, would you have let her go so easily? Ah." Chapter 131. Mother, you're also helping her. You're also siding with her. Yume was both embarrassed and angry, and her eyes turned red. Wang's heart softened, but she hardened her heart and snorted coldly. "I'm not siding with anyone. I'm just stating facts. You're too unreasonable." Fine. You're all disgusted with me. I'll leave all right." Yume cried as she got up. "Stop right there." Wang was so angry that her voice trembled. Fine. You even dare to throw a tantrum in front of me, right? In this family, you're the ancestor, you're the bodhisattva. Even I have to look at your face and follow your wishes. I can't say anything about whether you're right or not. Fine. Leave right now." Yume was stunned for a moment, and her crying stopped abruptly. Nanny Jiang quickly went forward to soothe Wang's chest. "Old mistress, please calm down, old mistress, don't be angry. Eldest Missy is your biological daughter, she should respect and be filial to you. How could she be like this? Old mistress, please don't say such words out of anger. How would eldest Missy feel if she were to hear it? Don't try to persuade me." Wang wiped her tears and said, "If she really respects me and treats me as her mother, she wouldn't be making such a fuss. She's clearly not letting me live a peaceful life." "How could that be? Old mistress, you're thinking too much." Nanny Jiang hurriedly coaxed Wang before turning to Yume. "Eldest Missy, please persuade old mistress. Old mistress really dotes on you." "Mother, it's my fault, I'm sorry. Don't be sad, don't cry." Yume hurriedly knelt in front of Wang and pulled on her sleeves. "What's there to be sad about? Isn't it all for you?" Wang cried. "You two sisters-in-law get along so well, and even Fengzi respects Wanyang so much, so why are you making such a fuss? Mother doesn't care what the two of you thought in the past, but Wanyang is now our Shi family's daughter-in-law. She has done well in everything, and she treats your younger brother with respect. How good would it be to live peacefully? You just have to stir up trouble every other day. Wanyang is still considered a good person. She never said anything, but you can't always be like this. When will these days end? Besides, what can you change by doing this? It would only add to everyone's worries. Yume, do you know that you're clearly making things difficult for your mother and brother?" "Mother, I won't, okay?" Hearing her mother's words, Yume felt bitter and bitter. She had no choice but to give in and coax her mother, but she was even more dissatisfied and annoyed. She thought angrily, Sangwon is indeed not a simple woman. Even mother has been bewitched by her. Just based on her true colors yesterday, she won't treat me well. She wants to deal with me, but she doesn't have the final say in this family. There's still mother and brother. Otherwise, why would she be so courteous to me? If only you could understand mother's painstaking efforts. Wang gradually stopped crying and said, that way she can take care of you in the future. Then mother will be relieved. After all, she's the one in charge of the household. Even if mother manages the household now, won't it still be handed over to her in the future? Your younger brother is a grown man. He's so busy outside that he can't even take care of himself. How can he take care of the daily chores? He has to rely on Wan Yang. We won't be staying here forever. Sure, you may refuse to accept. When my husband becomes an official, we'll naturally leave. In other words, who needs her to take care of them? We'll talk about it when that day comes. Wang snorted and said, Mother. Sure, you may felt hurt. Mother, do you look down on my husband so much? Does my husband deserve to be unable to pass the imperial examinations for the rest of his life? I don't believe it. Wang regretted her slip of the tongue. She shouldn't have hurt her daughter like that. Even though she didn't think highly of Ren Jixian, she could only coax her daughter and sigh. Mother didn't say that. If that's not the case, then who knows what will happen in the future? It's never wrong to be more prepared. Mother. Sure, Yumei was angry. After all, you just don't believe him. All right. Wang frowned and said, what I mean is that you can never be too prepared. What if? No, we'll talk about it when he passes the imperial examinations. Don't you still have to stay at home? Can't you just give mother a few days of comfort? I say, you're really strange. The one marrying Wan Yang is Fengju, and Fengju doesn't have any objections, so why are you being so picky? Sure, Yumei opened her mouth and lowered her head. I'm feeling unjust for cousin Fengzi. Shut up. Wang's face sank again. How can you say that? Fengzi is my niece, and she grew up with Fengju. She was willing to be a concubine, and I've also promised her that when she gives birth to a son in the future, she'll be able to wear a red dress. What grievances does she have? She didn't even say anything, so who are you to poke your nose into other people's business? If you have the time, you should pay more attention to the demon in your house. I'm warning you, no matter what, Wan Yang is a wife, and Fengzi is a concubine. Since ancient times, there has been a difference between a wife and a concubine. Once there's a change, the family will be in chaos. Our Sure family can't do something like spoiling the concubine and neglecting the wife. But Fengzi and my brother are a couple. It's clearly saying one who's the one at fault. The marriage agreement between the two families was set by your grandfather when he was still alive. Are you going to blame your grandfather too? Wang glared at her and sighed softly. Speaking of which, I'm also at fault. If I knew that Fengzi and Fengju would develop to this stage, I wouldn't have let them interact so frequently. I only treated it as a child's family, but who knew? Don't mention this matter again in the future, do you hear me? Sure, Yumei was speechless for a moment, and she said unhappily, yes, I hear you. In the Sure family's second household, concubine Feng was attentively serving second Lord Sure tea, and listening to him talk about his treasured bird and fish. As he talked about the newly acquired canary, second Lord Sure smiled and said, speaking of which, this matter is also thanks to our young mistress's brother. Kiki, if not for him, that country bumpkin with the surname Jean wouldn't have given it to me so easily. Kiki, when this kid becomes a scholar or a top scholar next year, our Sure family will also be able to bask in his glory. Concubine Feng finally found an opportunity to speak the words that she had been thinking about for a long time. She quickly took the opportunity to praise Sang Yufei greatly and said, truly, young mistress's appearance, character, and way of dealing with people are truly worthy of respect. Who would have thought that her brother would also be so promising and so talented? Truly a dragon among men. I wonder which family's young mistress will be so lucky in the future. Why? Second Lord Sure pinched concubine Feng's fair and tender cheeks and said with a smile that didn't look like a smile, Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to her? Why don't I learn from our family's young master, and give a concubine a gift? I owe old master. Concubine Fong repeatedly spat and glared at second Lord Shi. What nonsense are you talking about? You're not being serious. As she said that, she giggled and winked at him. Even if I'm willing, would she fancy me? I'd better serve you honestly, old master. Kiki, at least you have some self-awareness. Second Lord Shi smiled and said, if I were like him, I wouldn't want you either. You, Concubine Fong said angrily. Old master, I've at least given birth to a daughter for you. How can you say that about me? Isn't it just a joke? Look at how anxious you are. Second Lord Shi laughed. Your joke isn't funny at all. Concubine Fong rolled her eyes at him. Why? Are you angry? Second Lord Shi smiled and pinched her again. He laughed and said, you still have the nerve to blame me? Isn't it all because of your praises for no reason? I have something to discuss with you. You're good. Now you're making things up about me. Concubine Fong angrily turned her head away to avoid his hand and said coldly. Second Lord Shi's temper was like this. He liked to retreat in order to advance. Seeing this, not only did he not get angry, he quickly went up to Concubine Fong and comforted her. He then asked her what she wanted to discuss with him. Concubine Fong saw that he was about to calm down and took the opportunity to act coquettishly. Then, she glanced at Second Lord Shi and sighed. What else could it be? With old master here, I don't have to worry about anything. It's all because of my daughter. Arue? Second Lord Shi was stunned. What happened to Arue? Did she get into trouble? Old master, Concubine Fong said angrily. Arue is so obedient. What trouble could she get into? Sigh, this girl is growing up day by day. It's time for her to find a good family. Logically speaking, this matter should be decided by old master and old mistress. As a concubine, it's not up to me to say anything. But Arue is my flesh and blood. How can I not love her? Second Lord Shi was a little displeased and disgusted at the beginning. He was about to say that old mistress would make the decision, and she shouldn't worry. However, after hearing Concubine Fong's words, he couldn't bring himself to say it. Arue was her biological child. It wasn't wrong for a biological mother to care about her own child. She even knew how to respect old mistress. This was etiquette. I say you're too impatient. How old is Arue? It's still early. Second Lord Shi smiled disapprovingly. Concubine Fong quickly said, Old master, Arue's nominal age is 12 this year. Next year, she'll be 13. It's not early anymore. This matter, the earlier it is decided, the earlier we can prepare for it. What's more, over the years, all the good people will be taken away by other families. Look at how impatient you are. Second Lord Shi laughed. Don't worry, I've doted on Arue since she was young. I can't bear to let her suffer. With our Shi family, do you think we won't be able to find a good son-in-law? Even if she gets married tomorrow, I'll be able to prepare her dowry overnight. What's there to prepare? Really, you've got nothing better to do but worry about it. Concubine Fong panicked and said straightforwardly, I don't mean anything else. I'm just thinking that since there's a ready-made candidate in front of us, why don't we settle it early and settle one of our worries? A ready-made candidate? Second Lord Shi was surprised. Chapter 132. That's right. It's young mistress's second uncle. Concubine Fong hurriedly said, Master, don't you think he's a good candidate? Second young master is a talented man. And he even passed the GUN examination. Next year, he'll definitely pass the Jinshi examination. Master, having a son-in-law who passes the Jinshi examination will be so impressive. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? Second Lord Shi slapped the table as if suddenly enlightened. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case. He couldn't help but say happily, You're right, you're right. Our two families are already in-laws, so this can be considered even closer. Master is wise. That's exactly right. Concubine Fong saw Second Lord Shi agree with her, and her heart blossomed with joy. If her daughter were to become the wife of an official, wouldn't she, as her mother, be able to live a good life? But second young master is already 19, right? Our Rue is only 12. Isn't that a little too young? Second Lord sure couldn't help but feel a little regretful. If only his daughter was 2 or 3 years older. Not young, not young. Even the 13-year-old imperial concubines participated. Concubine Feng hurriedly said with a smile. This marriage can be settled first. If the Sang family is in a hurry, Arue can get married in 2 or 3 years when she's 14. If the Sang family isn't in a hurry, Arue can get married after she's of marriageable age. Our Arue is so obedient and sensible. Her character and looks are so outstanding, and she's also a proper lady from a respectable family. She's perfect for second young master. All right. Then it's settled. The more Second Lord Sure listened, the more he felt that it made sense. He slapped the table and nodded with a smile. Tomorrow, I'll have someone invite second young master Sang over and talk to him face to face. I am master. Concubine Feng said angrily. You're too happy that you've become muddle-headed. How can you talk to him face to face? Why don't we do this? I'll find an excuse to meet our young mistress tomorrow and let her know. I'll let young mistress talk to second young master, and let second young master inform his brother and sister-in-law, so that they can officially send a matchmaker to propose marriage. Master, you can't make a mistake here. Our family's miss is a noble lady. How can a woman chase after a man? We have to let the man take the initiative to beg. Only then will our family's miss be dignified. Only then will Lord and Madam be dignified. Second Lord Sure laughed out loud when he heard that. He slapped his head and said, not bad, you're right. How could a woman chase after a man? Our Sure family isn't bad either. We can't let others look down on us. Of course. Concubine Feng smiled and said, Master, then this matter is settled? I'll pay Ma a visit tomorrow. Yes. Let's quickly settle this matter while second uncle is still in our house. Second Lord Sure said with a smile. Don't worry, old master. I understand. Concubine Feng was overjoyed. Concubine Feng was so excited that she couldn't sleep well the entire night. She only stopped after a long time with her trusted servant, nannying. When she thought of the benefits of this marriage, Concubine Feng was so happy that her heart bloomed like a flower. On the morning of the second day, Concubine Feng estimated that Sang-won had finished handling the household affairs and was free. Concubine Feng changed into a coxcomb red robe with colorful floral prints and a light purple pleated skirt. She combed her hair into a neat bun and inserted some gold and silver jewelry into her hair. After meticulously dressing herself up, she left with nannying. Both the master and servant were a little excited. Their hearts were beating fast as they whispered to each other along the way. Nannying, do you think Ma will be willing? Hi, don't worry. Although second Uncle Sang has won the Jiyuan and has a bright future, our Sure family is also the richest family in Qingzhou. If we were to talk about it carefully, it's hard to say who's worse. Our fifth Missy is such a good person. This marriage is more than suitable for the old slave. This is a match made in heaven. Second Uncle Sang is not stupid. Why would he refuse? Besides, Ma is only in charge of passing a message. It's not up to her whether she's willing or not. Yes. Look at me. I'm spouting nonsense. Ma is such a good person. Just passing a message, she'll definitely help. Kiki, that's right. You're not stupid. You're happy. Yes, that's right. The two of them laughed as they spoke. Unexpectedly, the joy turned into sorrow. Before the two of them could stop laughing, they cried out in pain. It turned out that two women had somehow barged out from a small path by the side. The woman in the yellow dress accidentally bumped into Concubine Feng, while the other woman in the light blue dress stepped on Nanny Ying's foot. Ouch, it's so painful. Which blind wretched girl did it? Nanny Ying shouted as she stomped her feet. I'm sorry. Nanny, I didn't notice. The little lass quickly supported Nanny Ying. You brat, you. Nanny Ying was flustered and exasperated as she glared at the lass. Just as she was about to scold her, she saw clearly that it was Shi Lian's personal maidservant, Kai Yun, and could only hold it in. Concubine Feng's waist was hurting from the collision. When she saw the mud stain on her dress from Shi Lian's foot, she was filled with hatred. However, when she saw that the one who was helping her was Shi Lian, She could only swallow her anger. Shirlian was the young miss of the first branch of the Shir family. She was the concubine of the second branch. It was not up to her to lecture Shirlian. She was not as stupid as concubine Shui. Sorry, it's all my fault. Concubine Fong, are you alright? Did you hurt your waist? Come, let me help you sit. Shirlian held onto concubine Fong's arm with a face full of embarrassment. I'm fine. How could I trouble third missy? I'm really fine. Concubine Fong tried her best to squeeze out a smile. Missy, let this servant help concubine Fong. Kai Yun quickly walked over and took over from Shirlian's hands. She also kept apologizing to concubine Fong. There's no need to rest. I'd better go back. I'm really fine, third missy. You have to be more careful next time. It's not a joke if you fall. Concubine Fong's waist was throbbing with pain. Looking at her dirty dress, how could she still go to Sangwon's place? She could only go back first. It's good that concubine Fong is fine. Thank you for your reminder. I'll be more careful next time. Shirlian quickly said with a smile. He had come here in high spirits, but he didn't expect to be doused with a bucket of cold water for no reason. The frustration and anger in his heart was simply indescribable. Concubine Fong supported Nanny Ing and left in a huff. This third missy is so obedient in front of old mistress. Why is she so noisy behind her back? Really? Nanny Ing grumbled softly when they were far away. Enough. It's our fault for being careless. Don't talk nonsense. Is it something we can talk about? Concubine Fong rolled her eyes at Nanny Ing. She was also very angry. Nanny Ing quickly responded with a yes, but did not dare to make a sound. She smiled and said, Does concubine Fong's waist hurt? Do you want me to call a physician to take a look? Concubine Fong frowned and took a deep breath. She said angrily, Don't you think it's embarrassing enough? Just ask someone to secretly get a bottle of medicinal wine for injuries. Calling a physician. Calling a physician would have to be reported to old mistress first, and old mistress would send someone to invite him. Old mistress would ask for the reason. If she knew, wouldn't she become a joke? Moreover, it was not easy to coax old master to let her take part in this marriage. She had to hide it from old mistress. If old mistress found out and was unhappy, she would take the opportunity to ruin it. That would be even worse. Yes, the old slave is muddle-headed. Nanny Ing was slow to realize and knocked her own head. Young miss, is what they said true? Seeing that concubine Fong and her servant had walked away, Kai Yun softly asked Shirlian. Shirlian quickly looked around and whispered, Let's go back first. Yes, young miss. The master and servant silently returned to Fuchu Pavilion and closed the door. Kai Yun impatiently said, Young miss, you have to think of a way. Otherwise, someone else will beat us to it. We were lucky today and happened to bump into them and hear them. Otherwise wouldn't. Enough, don't say any more. Let me be alone for a while. Shirlian bit her lips and sighed. Kai Yun deeply stared at her, silently poured tea, and then retreated. Shirlian instinctively placed her hand on her chest. Her heart was still thumping wildly in her chest. After a while, she let out a long sigh of relief. Shirlian couldn't help but feel angry. Shirue was only 11 years old and concubine Fong actually had this kind of idea. Second aunt didn't appear, so it must have been concubine Fong who secretly urged second uncle. After thinking for a while, Shirlian gritted her teeth and decided to take the risk to see Sang Yufei. She called Kai Yun over and gave her some instructions. Although Sang Yufei was with Shi Fenghua every day, there was a break after lunch. If Shirlian wanted to see him, this was the best time. After noon, the people in each courtyard were resting or chatting in their rooms after lunch. There were very few people in the Fu. Sang Yufei's room was in the outer courtyard, but he often played in the garden during the day. Sometimes, he would rest in Shi Fenghua's sunflower garden. Sang Yufei came to a remote corner of the garden. Shirlian was already anxiously waiting there. Alian, did something happen? Sang Yufei hurriedly asked. A few months ago, Shirlian went out of the Fu to pray and coincidentally met Sang Yufei for a walk. The two accidentally fell in love at first sight. At that time they didn't think of anything else. After all, They didn't know if they would see each other again after parting. Unexpectedly, when Sang Yufei came, the two met again and found out that the two families were in-laws. The surprise in their hearts was indescribable. They both thought that this was the will of the heavens. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence? Although Sang Yufei was a GUN student, he was still a virgin. He was too embarrassed to ask for her hand in marriage. In his heart, he planned to officially send someone to ask for her hand in marriage after he graduated from high school and became an official. Shi Lian was overjoyed when she heard his words. She forced herself not to appear in front of him for the past few days, as she was afraid that trouble would arise. At most, she would accidentally nod and greet him when they bumped into each other. Sang Yufei believed that if it wasn't for an extremely important matter, Shi Lian would never ask him to meet in private. Once this kind of private matter was exposed, neither of them would be able to resolve it. Chapter 133. Shi Lian did not have the time to sympathize with her husband, nor did she even have the time to greet him. She hurriedly told him what she and Kai Yin had heard. She was so anxious that she was out of her wits. Sang Lang, what should we do now? Even though concubine Fong has gone back today, she might come back tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to look for sister-in-law. At that time won't. Sang Yufei was also stunned and did not know whether to laugh or cry. He had seen Shi Rui at the banquet. She was still a little girl with a round face and hair. He could not help but shudder at the thought of marrying a child as his wife. Don't worry, let's think of a way. Sang Yufei comforted her, but he was not confident in his heart. However, he could not let concubine Fong speak about this matter. It was not that he was afraid that it would be difficult to refuse. After all, the age gap between him and Shi Rui was too big, and Shi Rui was still too young. Just based on this point, he could reject the marriage. Even if Second Lord Shi and concubine Fong were unhappy, their displeasure would be limited. After all, Shi Rui was still too young. They could not force others to wait for 3 to 4 years. However, this way, it would be inconvenient for Sang Yufei to ask the Sang family to marry Shi Lian. Wouldn't that be a slap to the second Shi family's face? Wang was most afraid of trouble. She would definitely not want to offend her younger brother and sister-in-law. Moreover, Shi Lian was not her biological daughter. Why would she want to create trouble for her? Concubine Fong will definitely mention it again. How can I not be anxious? Shi Lian was so anxious that she almost cried. She immediately felt embarrassed and her face turned red. She lowered her head and did not know what to say. You should go back first. Let me think about it slowly. Don't worry about concubine Fong. Just pretend that you don't know about this matter. I'll go see my younger sister later and talk to her. Sang Yufei gently persuaded. Shi Lian didn't care about being reserved anymore. She looked at Sang Yufei with tears in her eyes and said, Have you figured out a way? Sang Yufei raised his eyebrows slightly and said, If worst comes to worst, I'll avoid it for now. Tomorrow, I'll leave the Shi family and go to the capital. If I leave, there's no telling where to start. Wan Yang is my younger sister. No younger sister would care about her brother's marriage. It's useless even if they told Wan Yang. Shi Lian was overjoyed, but then she said reluctantly, You're leaving so soon? Although they couldn't see each other every day, Shi Lian was in a good mood these days knowing that he lived in her house and being so close to her. It was hard for her to accept that he was leaving all of a sudden. It doesn't matter if it's a few days earlier or later. Don't worry, go back quickly and don't let anyone see you. Sang Yufei smiled. Then take care of yourself. Shi Lian sighed and hurriedly turned to leave. Sang Yufei slowly paced in the garden with his hands behind his back, deep in thought. Not long after, he changed directions and went to Ning Garden. The winter days were short, so Sang Wan was casually taking a nap in the warm room at noon. When she heard that her second brother had come, she hurriedly got up with a smile and went out to greet him. The siblings didn't need to be too polite, so they chatted together in the warm room. Second brother, is something the matter? Sang Wan asked with a smile after serving tea and dismissing the maidservants. Wan Yang, you have to help me this time. Sang Yufei took a sip of tea and told her about the matter. He didn't mention Shi Lian, and only said that he overheard a maidservant from the second branch talking about her in the garden. Sang Yufei didn't want anyone to know that he and Shirlian knew each other. He didn't want people to look down on Shirlian because of this. This. Are you sure you didn't hear wrong? Sang Wan's eyes widened in shock. Shirui? That playful, gluttonous little girl who was always smiling at home was clearly still a child. Even if she fell, she would cry for her wet nurse. Concubine Fong actually wanted to marry her to her second brother? In the future, she would have to call her second sister-in-law? Just thinking about it made Sangwon shiver and goosebumps rise all over her body. I didn't hear it clearly, but it's most likely correct. Sang Yufei smiled bitterly and said, I want to go say goodbye to First Madam right now and leave the Shi family for the capital tomorrow. That's too hasty. Sangwon sighed softly. Wan Yang, help me this time. Sang Yufei smiled and said, You don't want to call that little girl your sister-in-law, do you? Sangwon smiled and said, Actually, there's such a big age gap between the two of you. Even if you refuse, it's not a big deal. Why do you have to? But that's right, it's better to leave early. It would be awkward to stay in someone else's house after rejecting the marriage proposal. It would be better to leave quickly and be done with it. That's right. Anyway, I was planning to leave in a few days. The earlier I go to the capital, the more likely I can find a suitable inn. Sang Yufei smiled. Second brother's luggage and travel expenses. Have they been prepared? Sangwon asked again when they talked about going to the capital. In fact, she really wanted to say that she would pay for the travel expenses, but when she thought of Shi Yumei's words, she forcibly suppressed those words. She didn't want to take advantage of the Shi family anymore. Sang Yufei was also afraid that she would be like this, so he quickly smiled and said, Don't worry, big brother and sister-in-law have already prepared everything for me. I brought 300 taels of silver notes. Although the prices in the capital are more expensive, I think it's enough. You don't have to worry about me anymore. Sang Yufei sighed softly. Logically speaking, I'm the older brother and you're the younger sister. I should be the one taking care of you, but I didn't expect you to worry about everything. There's also brother-in-law. He's done enough for our family. Good younger sister, you don't have to prepare anything for me this time. If you continue like this, I'll really feel uneasy. Second brother, then take care of yourself. I'll wait for you to pass the examinations and return home in glory. Sangwon smiled and nodded. She felt that her words seemed to be putting too much pressure on her second brother, so she quickly smiled and said, No matter what the result is, the most important thing is to be safe. Second brother, don't let us worry about you. You must come back early. Don't worry. I will. You guys take care of yourselves at home too. Sang Yufei smiled. The siblings chatted and said their goodbyes. Seeing that it was about time, Sang Yufei went to inform Shi Fenghua first. Although Shi Fenghua was surprised, he insisted on leaving and could not persuade him to stay, so they could only say their goodbyes. After that, Sangwon accompanied him to say goodbye to Wang. Wang also tried to persuade him to stay for a while. Seeing that he insisted, she sighed and said, Second young master Sang is right. The earlier you enter the capital, the earlier you can feel at ease. Then I won't keep second young master Sang. Second young master Sang, take care on the road. Our Shi family has shops in many cities on both sides of the canal. Chang Huan knows all about it. If there's anything you need, you can just look for her directly. There's no need to be polite. Sang Yufei quickly thanked her. Wang then ordered someone to send 200 taels of silver as a gift. However, Sang Yufei insisted on not accepting it, saying that he had already disturbed them for so many days in the Shi family. His heart was already uneasy and he did not dare to accept it. Wang had no choice but to give up. That night, Sangwon wrapped 2 newly made cotton robes and asked Luya to bring them to him. She told him that there were 50 taels of silver notes sewn into the hem of the robes in case of an emergency. Sang Yufei's heart was filled with warmth. She was truly his family for her to be so attentive. If he did not make a good trip to the capital this time, how could he be worthy of his brother, sister-in-law, and sister? Sang Yufei's heart suddenly tightened. The next day, Shi Fengju and Shi Fenghua personally sent him to the docks. Sangwon, Wang, and the others saw him off at the second gate. Shirlien, however, was unable to do so and was restless in her room. When she heard from Kai Yin that he had already left, she sat there listlessly for a while. When concubine Fong found out, it was too late for regrets. Why did he leave just like that? Aya, nannying. Why didn't you find out when second young master Sang was leaving earlier? If I knew that he was leaving today, I would have crawled to Ning Garden to see young mistress yesterday. Nannying thought to herself, who knows? You didn't expect it either. Concubine Fong, although second young master Sang has left, isn't young mistress still here? Aren't first young master Sang and first young master Sang's wife still here? Wouldn't it be the same if you told young mistress and settled this matter with first young master Sang and his wife? The eldest brother is like the father, and the eldest sister-in-law is like the mother. Even if second young master Sang becomes a high-ranking official, he still has to listen to his brother and sister-in-law. That was indeed the case. A simple and honest face flashed in front of concubine Fong's eyes. That was Sang Hong. She felt more confident and smiled. That's right, that's right. This matter should be decided by the elders. It doesn't have much to do with second young master Sang. First young master Sang was such an honest person. How could he not be willing? Concubine Fong was full of energy. After 2 days of recuperation, she brought nannying to Ning Garden to see Sangwon. When Sangwon heard that concubine Fong wanted to see her, her heart skipped a beat. She didn't want to see her, but since she was already at her doorstep, she couldn't just send her away. She still had to give face to the second lordship. She had no choice but to invite her in. What brings concubine Fong here today? You're a rare guest, please come in and have a seat. Sangwon smiled and said, you came at the right time. I have a flower here, but no matter how I draw it, it feels like it's missing something. Concubine Fong, please give me some pointers. Kiki, young mistress is too polite. Concubine Fong's hands were famous for being skillful. She took the painting and pointed at it with a smile. This painting of a hibiscus crouching cat is really beautiful. The leaves of the hibiscus flower are a little too loose and scattered. It'll be fine after some slight adjustments. As she spoke, she excused herself and took the brush from Luya to add a few touches. Sure enough, the whole painting was much more harmonious. Concubine Fong is indeed skillful. Sangwon praised with a smile. Kiki, it's nothing. I just have nothing to do to pass the time. As time passes, you'll naturally get it. You can't say that. If you ask me, it's also about talent and comprehension. Some people can learn at once and understand with just a little bit, but some people can't reach concubine Fong's level in their lifetime. Oh, young mistress, you're really good at talking. You're making this concubine feel embarrassed. As she spoke, everyone laughed. Nannying came forward with a smile and said, I've always heard that young mistress treats people with kindness. It's really our good fortune as servants to have a mistress like you in our residence. When it comes to drawing patterns, our concubine Fong isn't the best. Our fifth Mrs. pattern may be small, but it's called good. Concubine Fong's eyes lit up, and she secretly praised nannying for being so skillful. She smiled sweetly and nodded. Just as she was about to change the topic to her daughter, she saw Sangwon casually smiled and said, Is that so? It seems that the environment in our residence is good. The ladies in our residence are all good at needlework. At least, they're better than me. I'm the worst at needlework. Even my maid can do it better than me. Sangwon smiled and pointed at Luya. Chapter 134. Luya smiled. That's because young mistress's mind isn't on it. If you were, you would definitely be better than this servant. Look at how sweet your mouth is. Why are you still nagging here? Why don't you quickly brew a bowl of da hong pao tea for concubine Fong? Sangwon chuckled. Luya obeyed and smiled at concubine Fong. I don't know what kind of tea concubine Fong usually drinks. This da hong pao tea was newly acquired this year, and I haven't drunk it many times. I don't know if it suits concubine Fong's taste. This concubine doesn't care about such things. Anything is fine. Young mistress must have spent a lot of money. Concubine Fong could only smile. Concubine Fong is too polite. This tea, isn't it meant for people to drink? There's no such thing as spending a lot of money. Sangwon smiled slightly. Luya poured the tea and handed it to Concubine Fong. Sangwon smiled and said, Concubine Fong, have a taste. How does it taste? Concubine Fong saw the eagerness on Sangwon's face and smiled as she drank 2 mouthfuls. She didn't know anything about tea. No matter how good the tea was, it would taste the same in her mouth. However, she could not give face to Sangwon. She smacked her lips and pretended to taste it carefully. She smiled and praised. It's really good tea. It's more fragrant than the ones I usually drink. As long as Concubine Fong thinks it's good. Sangwon smiled and said. This tea has a rich fragrance. It's rich but not bland. I also think it's good. If Concubine Fong likes it, you can bring some back later. It's just that it's not much. I hope Concubine Fong doesn't mind. Concubine Fong was flattered and quickly smiled. How can I accept this? This concubine will thank young mistress in advance. Concubine Fong doesn't need to be so polite. Sangwon smiled and continued to talk about tea with Concubine Fong. Concubine Fong wanted to speak a few times, but couldn't find the right opportunity. She could only hold it in. Just as she was about to say something, Xingji came in from outside and whispered something in Sangwon's ear. Sangwon's expression changed slightly. She frowned and said, I know. Let them wait first. I'll go over in a while. I'm not free right now. Go and tell them to calm down. Yes, Xingji bent her knees and said with a smile. Then this servant will go first. It's just that those housekeepers are all impatient. Young mistress, you have to hurry over, otherwise this servant won't be able to handle it. All right, I got it. Sangwon smiled. Since Concubine Fong heard it, how could she not be tactful? She could only stand up and smile. Young mistress, if you have something to attend to, please go ahead. This concubine does not dare to delay young mistress's time. Sangwon pretended to decline and smiled. I really do have some matters to attend to. Then I won't keep concubine Nyang any longer. Concubine mother, if you're free in the future, come and visit again. Hongyi, send auntie and nannying out. Yes, young mistress. Hongyi stepped forward and gestured for her to enter. Grandaunt, please. Nanny Silver, please. This concubine will take her leave. This old slave will take her leave. Concubine Fong and Nanny Silver could only leave with a smile. Luya did not forget to fill a small jar with the Hongpao tea leaves. Nanny Silver hurriedly received it with a smile. Thank you for your trouble, miss. No wonder everyone in the Fu says that young mistress is a good person and treats people kindly. It's really not bad. If it were someone else, they would not be so polite. Nanny Silver said to Concubine Fong with a smile. Concubine Fong subconsciously thought of Gu Fongzi and nodded in agreement. You're right, young mistress is truly a good person. If it were someone else, they would have put on airs long ago. Why would she ask us to stay and even give us tea leaves? Concubine Fong then sighed dejectedly. It's a pity that I didn't have time to say what I wanted to say. That's nothing. Nanny Silver said with a smile. We'll come again tomorrow. Nonsense. Concubine Fong glared at her. Let's talk about it in a few days. How can we come again tomorrow? What's wrong with that? Didn't young mistress invite Concubine Fong to come again when you're free? This old slave thinks young mistress is unlucky and is just being polite. Nanny Silver said disapprovingly. Concubine Fong rolled her eyes at her and did not even have the desire to explain. You won't understand even if I explain it to you. She was the concubine of the old master of the second branch, and young mistress was the eldest daughter-in-law of the first branch. Now that she was in charge of the household, how could she, as a concubine of the second branch, visit young mistress so frequently? What would that make her? Moreover, she had just taken the tea leaves today and came again tomorrow. What would the servants say if she came again tomorrow? Moreover, she was too diligent. What if second madam became suspicious and asked her about it? How would she answer? If second madam knew that she was talking about fifth Mrs. marriage without her permission, she would definitely ruin this matter. Concubine Fong's heart tightened. It seemed that she had to find a chance to go to Ning Garden in the next few days, even if she had to be thick-skinned. She had to settle this matter before second madam knew, otherwise, who knew that concubine Fong had underestimated second madam's concern for her concubines. She and Nanny Silver had just returned to the room and had not had time to drink a cup of tea when second madam sent the head maid, Xiao Shuang, to invite her over for a chat. Concubine Fong's heart tightened, and she hurriedly invited Xiao Shuang to drink tea. She asked with a smile, "Miss Xiao Shuang, may I know why madam is looking for me?" Xiao Shuang would not reveal anything to her, and even declined the tea. She smiled and said, "This servant is only responsible for passing on the message. May I know why madam is looking for concubine Fong?" "Concubine Fong, please come with this servant. Madam is waiting." "All right, I'll clean my hands and come over. Miss Xiao Shuang, please sit for a while." Please wait, please wait." Concubine Fong hurriedly smiled and asked someone to bring Xiao Shuang over. She went to clean her hands uneasily and kept pondering. When she arrived at Misher's side, Misher did not make her guess in riddles and directly asked, "I heard you went to Ning Garden?" Concubine Fong's heart skipped a beat. She could only smile and nod. Yes. However, this servant did not go to Ning Garden on purpose. "I just felt a little thirsty when I was walking around the garden. I happened to pass by Ning Garden and went in to ask for a cup of tea. I originally wanted to ask the maids to pour me a cup of tea and leave after drinking it. Who knew that young mistress was there, so this servant went in to greet young mistress. Young mistress even gave this servant a small jar of tea leaves. So it's like that." Misher had some misgivings about Sangwon, and did not want her people to have anything to do with Sangwon. She said, "Be more careful next time. Don't go anywhere. There are some places that you shouldn't go. Don't let others gossip. Do you hear me?" "Yes, this servant will follow madam's instructions." Concubine Fong secretly heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly said submissively, "Good." Misher nodded in satisfaction and waved her hand. "It's good that you remember. Don't be like concubine Xue. Go." "Yes, madam. This servant does not dare to disobey madam's words. This servant will take her leave first." Concubine Fong bowed respectfully and left. At the door, Concubine Fong and Nannying looked at each other in shock. They could not go to Ning Garden for the time being. They could only wait for a suitable opportunity to meet young mistress before bringing it up. "Concubine Fong, don't be anxious. There's still plenty of time. We can slowly plan." Nannying comforted her. "Yes, you're right." Concubine Fong nodded. Thinking about it, she felt indignant and couldn't help but grit her teeth. Who was second madam's informant? How fast? Concubine Fong sighed silently. However, it was only a sigh. She had no intention of investigating. Because even if she knew who was the informant, she couldn't do anything to them. Second madam was the legal wife, and she was only a concubine. Second madam had sent people to keep an eye on her concubines. She wanted to know their every move so she could manage and educate them. This was something that should be done. How could she go against second madam? Every time she felt helpless because of her status. Concubine Fong hated her status as a concubine. No matter how hard she tried to gain master's favor, she couldn't change anything. She had no hope in this life, but she couldn't let her daughter's life be the same. She had to fight for her. Even if she had to give it her all. Only when her daughter was well would she be well. Sangwon secretly sighed in relief when she saw that concubine Fong had finally left. She thought to herself that concubine Fong couldn't come to her place every few days. Now that she had dealt with it, the next time she came, she would have to use the same trick again. In any case, it was better not to let concubine Fong say those words. Even if she rejected her tactfully, it would hurt their relationship. Even if she didn't look at her, she had to look at second madam. In the blink of an eye, it was November. The weather was getting colder day by day. The atmosphere between the two young masters in Ning Garden was still neither hot nor cold. Sangwon had given up this time. Every time she faced Shi Fengju, she only treated herself as his servant. She cared about his basic necessities and was considerate of him. However, everyone felt that something was wrong, including Shi Fengju. Shi Fengju originally thought that the resentment in her heart would dissipate after a few days, so he did not argue with her. But who would have thought that after 7 to 8 days, Sangwon would still treat him with the same attitude of keeping a distance from him. Shi Fengju felt awkward and his heart was not at ease. Thus, he took the initiative to find something to talk about with her and accompany her carefully. Sangwon didn't fall for this at all. Her face was gentle and she spoke softly. She was still gentle and kind as she answered each and every one of his questions. She didn't say anything more, and her eyes were indifferent. Shi Fengju felt extremely helpless. For the first time, he felt what it meant to be powerless. Wan Yang, if I have nothing to do tomorrow, how about I accompany you to go shopping? There's a new batch of furs and woolen materials from our family's silk and satin shop. They're the best for making large woolen clothes. Shall I accompany you to pick a few? Shi Fengju said with a smile on his face when he returned at night. Sangwon's expression didn't change at all. She lowered her eyes and didn't look at him. She said indifferently, "Thank you for your kindness, eldest young master, but there's no need. This year's woolen clothes have already been made a few days ago. There's no need for you to do this. On such a cold day, Wan Yang doesn't want to go shopping if she has nothing to do. Eldest young master, why don't you ask eldest Missy? Maybe she wants to go." Shi Fengju's face suddenly darkened. She was still like this. "What do you want? Do you have to talk to me like this?" Shi Fengju's face was cold. Sangwon's eyelashes fluttered. She gently raised her eyes and looked at Shi Fengju with her watery eyes. She said in a polite and soft voice, "What does eldest young master mean? Forgive Wan Yang for not understanding. If Wan Yang has done something wrong, please advise me. Wan Yang will change." Chapter 135. Coincidentally, a maidservant came in to serve tea. Sangwon personally served the tea. "This is Lord's favorite Longjing tea. Please, Lord." Enough. The anger in Shi Fengju's heart surged, and he waved his hand angrily. Unexpectedly, he accidentally knocked over the teacup, and the hot tea splashed onto Sangwon's hand. Sangwon screamed and let go of her hand. But how could it be in time? The back of her left hand and her slender fingers that were like bamboo shoots were instantly covered in a layer of red. Eldest young mistress. The maids were shocked and hurried forward to support her. Shi Fengju was also stunned. Looking at Sangwon's red hand and trembling slender body, his heart ached. He hurriedly stood up and held her hand. "How is it? Does it hurt? Hurry up and get the ointment. What are you waiting for?" Xingji agreed and hurriedly went into the inner room to get it. Mama Li hurriedly asked the maids to bring cold water and a towel. Luya supported Sangwon and was in great pain. She couldn't help but secretly glare at Shi Fengju. "Wan Yang." Shi Fengju wanted to apologize, but he couldn't say the words. He gently held her hand. "Is it very painful? It's all my fault." "It's fine. It's fine after applying the ointment." Sangwon gently pushed his hand away and forced a smile. "It's Wan Yang's fault. It's not eldest young master's fault. Hongyi, give eldest young master another cup of tea. Eldest young master, please sit down first. I'll go apply the ointment." As she spoke, she entered the warm room with Luya. Xingji took the ointment, and the maids brought cold water in. Shi Fengju's eyes narrowed and his face tightened. He was both distressed and angry. It hurt so much that tears welled up in his eyes and his face turned pale. She still didn't show any anger, and was still the same. What was she trying to do? "Young master, please have some tea." Sensing danger, Hongye timidly brought a tray forward. Shi Fengju abruptly stood up and coldly shouted, "Get lost." Hongyi was shocked, and she hurriedly lowered her head and retreated to the side. She didn't even dare to breathe loudly, and all the servant girls held their breaths. Shi Fengju forcefully lifted the curtain and entered the warm room. Mama Li was instructing Luya on how to use a wet towel to wipe Sangwon's hands. The ointment was placed on the Kong table and hadn't been applied yet. "All of you back off," Shi Fengju said coldly. Everyone froze at the same time, looking at Shi Fengju and Sangwon, not knowing what to do. "Eldest young master." "Nanny." Mama Li was about to say something when she was interrupted by Shi Fengju. "All of you can leave now. But young mistress's hands haven't been applied yet. We'll leave after old slave finishes applying the ointment for young mistress," Mama Li said with a smile. You can leave now. Shi Fengju remained unmoved. All of you can leave first. It doesn't hurt anymore. Quickly go. Sangwon said with a smile. Everyone had no choice but to leave together. What was this young couple arguing about again? Mama Li couldn't help but look worriedly at Sangwon. After leaving the warm room, she chased all the servant girls to the outer hall. Shi Luya and Xingji stood guard outside the warm room. If there was any trouble inside, they would be able to enter in time. Shi Fengju sat in front of Sangwon with a cold face and pulled over her scalded hand. There were several blisters on her slender fingers, and some of the skin on the back of her hand was peeling. Her delicate hand looked very pitiful with her pink skin. Sangwon tried to struggle, but to no avail. She could only let him hold her hand and hang her head down. Does it hurt? Shi Fengju asked gently. How could it not hurt? Try it if it doesn't hurt. That burning sensation was still flaring up in waves. How could it not hurt? He actually treated her like this in front of a room full of servants. It hurt more than just her hand. As the young mistress, she had made a big fool of herself for once. All the grievances in her heart surged up, and her eyes were instantly covered with a layer of mist. Sangwon hung her head and didn't say anything. Shi Fengju sighed softly. I really didn't do it on purpose. You too. Why didn't you dodge faster? Shi Fengju gently picked up the white jade-like ointment and applied it on the back of her hand. He rubbed it gently with his fingertips. I'll be careful. If it hurts, just let me know. Sangwon still didn't say anything, and let him apply the ointment for her hand. A cool feeling spread on the back of her hand, sweeping away the burning pain. Sangwon couldn't help but slightly relax. Shi Fengju felt it and smiled. It's not too serious. Apply the ointment again at night. It'll be fine in 2 days. Wanyang, can you talk to me? Shi Fengju smiled helplessly. Thank you, young master. Sangwon withdrew her hand. It was just a small accident. I don't blame young master. Young master, you don't have to feel apologetic, and you don't have to blame yourself. Shi Fengju's face sank again. He grabbed her wrist and said, Wanyang, when are you going to stop sulking with me? What do you want to do to appease your anger? Sangwon raised her head and stared calmly at Shi Fengju. She smiled and said, Young master, you're thinking too much. Why would Wanyang be angry with young master? Shi Fengju was met with a neither soft nor hard rebuke. He was so angry that he couldn't say anything. He stared at her, and his breathing became rough. After a while he said, Are you still angry with me? Do you want my big sister to apologize to you before you're satisfied? I've told you before that you're the young mistress of the Shi family. It's normal for you to be wronged every day. Why do you have to be so serious? My big sister isn't a malicious person. She's quite pitiful. Why can't you let her go this time? Besides, my mother has already taught her a lesson. She hasn't caused you any trouble these days, has she? How much more do you want to make trouble? You make it sound so easy. Haven't I given in enough? What happened in the end? She's about to slap me in the face. I can tolerate it if she's talking about me, but why is she talking about my second brother so maliciously? Your mother taught her a lesson? Don't joke around. Can your mother bear to do that? Will she listen? It's more likely that she restrained herself because I rebutted her a few times that day. I'm not angry with young master, nor am I angry with anyone, Sangwon said calmly, because it's useless for me to blame anyone. In the end, I'll only be looking for trouble for myself. Why should I? Besides, there's no need for that. Young master, do you still remember our agreement? It won't be long before Wanyang leaves the Shi family. Why should we make each other unhappy over such a small matter? What did you say? Shi Fengju's heart suddenly hurt. It was as if he had received a heavy blow. The pain was unbearable. She said that it won't be long before she leaves. You've always remembered this matter? Is it because of this reason that you... Shi Fengju's face was ashen as he said each word forcefully. Are you treating me so indifferently? Don't you remember? Sangwon met his gaze and said, If I leave, everyone will be happy. There won't be any more problems. Isn't this what young master has always been looking forward to? Wanyang believes that she has served and taken care of young master with all her heart. She has already fulfilled her duties as a wife. Young master's judgment of Wan Yang seems to be unfair. Sangwon, how are you? How are you? You really know how to stab people in the heart with a knife. I really didn't expect this. I really didn't expect this. Shifengji was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He stared straight at Sangwon and said, Sangwon, let me tell you. Just because of what you said, I won't allow you to leave. I'd like to see what you can do to me. Sangwon's face suddenly changed. She shook her head and said, I won't. You've always been a man of your words. You won't go back on your words. Shifengji saw that her face changed when she heard that she couldn't leave. He became even more furious and sneered. Yes, I will go back on my words. What can you do about it? As long as I don't admit to this matter, then it never happened. Sangwon, don't you think so? Sangwon was angry and anxious, but she couldn't do anything to him. Yes, only the two of them knew about this matter. If he didn't admit it, then it didn't. She couldn't do anything about it. What about me? Shifengji's eyes were filled with hostility as he said hatefully. Don't you want to fulfill your duties as a wife? It seems that you haven't fulfilled your biggest responsibility yet. Do you think you can leave so easily after entering my family's door? Sangwon, you're underestimating me, Shifengji. Shifengji pushed her back fiercely and leaned over her. He stared at her condescendingly and said coldly, Give me a son. I won't stop you if you want to leave after you give birth to a son. Anyway, don't even think about it now. You're crazy. Let go of me. Sangwon had never seen Shifengji like this. Her face turned pale, and her eyes were filled with horror. Shifengji sneered and lowered his head to kiss her lips fiercely. No. Sangwon was shocked and struggled violently. She tilted her head to avoid his kiss and pushed and punched him with both hands, trying to push him off her body. Shifengji was so angry that he lost his mind. The more she dodged and panicked, the angrier he became. He felt that her hands were in the way and forcefully grabbed them and pressed her body down. Unexpectedly, he grabbed onto Sangwon's sore hand. The blisters on her fingers burst, and the skin on the back of her hand was torn apart. Coupled with the unbearable shame and anger, Sangwon's tears flowed down and she cried bitterly. Hand my hand. Sangwon was ashamed, angry, and in pain. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. Shifengji suddenly came back to his senses and hurriedly let go of her. Wanyang. Sangwon quickly got up and dodged to the side. With a paw sound, she gave Shifengji a slap and cried bitterly. Go away, go away. I don't want to see you again. Shifengji was stunned. He saw that Sangwon's hair was in a mess and her face was red with shame and anger. Her face was full of tears and her hands were in a terrible state. Shifengji couldn't help but feel vexed. He stomped his foot and turned to rush out. How could Mama Lee, who was waiting outside, not hear the commotion in the room? Hearing Sangwon crying and shouting, Luya couldn't help but want to rush in, but Mama Lee stopped her with a glare. Seeing the eldest young master rush out of Ning Garden without saying a word, everyone was stunned. They couldn't care less about the eldest young master and hurried into the warm room. Eldest young mistress, are you okay? Seeing Sangwon in such a sorry state, everyone's expression changed. Nanny Lee was the first to step forward and exclaimed, What exactly happened? Mama. Sangwon threw herself into Mama Lee's arms and cried uncontrollably. Chapter 136. Young Mistress. Young Mistress. Mama Lee was bewildered by Sangwon's antics. Seeing that she was so attached to her, she couldn't bear to push her away. Her heart softened as she gently hugged Sangwon and patted her back. Young mistress, don't cry, don't cry. What exactly happened? Speak slowly, don't cry. Mama Lee gently patted Sangwon to comfort her as she gave Luya and the others a look, ordering them to withdraw. Luya's expression was also very ugly. She was certain that the eldest young master had bullied her master. She couldn't help but complain in her heart as she stood there in a daze. In the end, it was Xingji who pulled her out. We servants will go fetch water. Mama Lee gave them a look of approval and indicated for them to come in slowly as she hurriedly comforted Sangwon. After a while, Sangwon gradually stopped crying. The shame and anger on her face also gradually faded. She let go of Mama Lee and took out a handkerchief to wipe her tears. She forced a smile and said, I forgot myself and made a joke of myself in front of Mama. Young mistress. Mama Lee didn't know what to say. She helped her tie her hair into a bun and straightened her wrinkled clothes. She gently advised, You and the eldest young master are husband and wife. If there's a problem, you can talk it out. There's no need to be so angry. If you end up like this, won't you feel uncomfortable in your heart? Young mistress's temperament has always been very good. Today, thinking about what happened just now, Sangwon didn't even want to mention it. She reluctantly said, I couldn't hold back and said a few wrong words that angered the eldest young master. I know now. Don't worry, it won't happen again. Sangwon couldn't help but softly gasp as she felt a burning pain in her hand. Mama Lee could naturally tell that she wasn't telling the truth, so she didn't ask further. But when she saw her hand, she was shocked. Oh my God, how did you get like this? She hurriedly took the ointment and carefully applied it on her. Hurry up and get some water to serve them. Mama Lee shouted. Xingji and Luya lifted the curtain and came in. Mama Lee saw that it was appropriate to have the two of them here, so she quietly retreated. With a cold face, she ordered the maidservants. If anything that happened in this room today is leaked outside, don't blame this old woman for being ruthless when I find out. Keep your mouth shut. Don't say what you shouldn't say, and forget what you shouldn't remember. The little maidservants felt a chill in their hearts and hurriedly bowed their heads in acknowledgement. Granny, it's time for dinner. What do you think? Hong Yi whispered. What's the point of setting the table? Mammy Lee glared at Hong Yi and sighed. She muttered to herself for a moment before saying, Hurry up and find out where eldest young master went and invite him back for dinner. Have the kitchen warm the food first. Yes, Granny. Hong Yi accepted the task and hurriedly left the scene as if relieved of a heavy burden. Mama Lee returned to the warm room and saw that Sangwon had changed her clothes, washed her face, and combed her hair. She went forward and smiled warmly. It's almost dark. Is eldest young mistress hungry? Old slave, send someone to invite eldest young master. Let's set the table in a while. When she heard her mention Shifengju, Sangwon's expression immediately changed. She frowned and said, You all serve eldest young master. I don't have an appetite and want to rest for a while. You all go out and don't let anyone disturb you. You all go out. Eldest young mistress, you didn't eat much for lunch today. You should get up and eat a little. Mama Lee gently advised. Sangwon waved her hand. I really don't have an appetite. You all go out. I want to be alone for a while. Mama Lee and the others had no choice but to leave. Luya wanted to say something but stopped. Her face was full of concern and worry. Sangwon forced a smile at her. You also go out. You all go do what you need to do. I'll be fine after resting. Then you should rest. This servant guarantees that no one will come in and disturb you. When you're hungry, let this servant know and this servant will ask the kitchen to make food for you. Luya said in a crisp voice. Her vigilance was obvious. Mama Lee was so angry that she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She scolded her in a low voice. You talk too much. Hurry up and leave. Sangwon couldn't help but laugh. Not long after, Hong Yi returned and reported. Mama, eldest young master is in the study room. He said that if there's nothing important, don't disturb him. He's not hungry and won't come over to eat. Why are these two so? Mama Lee sighed and went to the small kitchen to look at the dishes prepared for tonight. She ordered the servants to use hot water to keep warm a bowl of fried pork, a bowl of crispy bamboo shoots with 3 delicacies, a bowl of chicken tofu pudding, a bowl of tricolored steamed eggs, and a large bowl of crystal clear rice. She ordered Luya to send it to Shifengju. She also ordered for the boneless fish, ginger rabbit meat, stir-fried tofu, and scallop bamboo soup to be kept warm in the kitchen for when eldest young mistress wanted to eat. Mama Lee had sent Luya. Firstly, in her eyes, Luya was Shifengju's tongfang. Secondly, she was eldest young mistress's maidservant. Perhaps eldest young master would think of eldest young mistress when he saw her and come back. However, when Luya saw her mistress being bullied to that extent, she was already furious. How could she be willing to send food to Shifengju? However, She didn't dare to disobey her godmother's words. She could only reluctantly take the box and have a maidservant carry it. Not long after they left Ning Garden, she stopped and instructed the maidservant. I have an urgent matter to attend to. You'll deliver it to eldest young master alone. Just leave it to Chang Huan. Remember, leave after you hand it over. You're not allowed to speak carelessly, do you understand? How could the maidservant dare to disobey? Moreover, delivering food to eldest young master alone was a very honorable task. The maidservant suddenly felt like she was shouldering the burden alone. She happily agreed and hurriedly left with the box. Sure enough, she followed Lu Ye's instructions and handed the box to Chang Huan. She only said that she was here to deliver food to eldest young master, then turned around and left. When Shi Fengju returned to the study, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. One of his cheeks was faintly red and looked like a palm print. Chang Huan didn't dare to provoke him at this time. She pulled the maidservant aside and said, Older sister, since you're here to deliver food to eldest young master, you'd better deliver it inside. Normally, the maidservant would be eager to show her face and curry favor in front of eldest young master. However, older sister Lu Ye had already instructed her to hand it over to Chang Huan. She didn't dare to disobey. With older sister Lu Ye's temper, wouldn't it be terrible if she flared up? Moreover, the atmosphere today was strange. As long as one wasn't an idiot, they would be able to feel it. It would be too late to avoid it. Who would be so stupid as to approach it? I still have something to do. You'd better hand it over to eldest young master. The maidservant hurriedly turned around and ran away. Chang Huan was helpless. She didn't dare delay for fear that the food would turn cold. She sighed and braced herself to knock on the door and enter. Eldest young master, young mistress has ordered someone to deliver food to you. Would you like this servant to serve it to you now? As soon as she entered, Chang Huan hurriedly spoke before Shi Fengju could chase her away. As expected, Shi Fengju forcibly stopped himself from saying the word scram. He said indifferently, Young mistress ordered someone to deliver it? Where's the person who delivered the food? He said that he still had something to do and has already left. Chang Huan smiled apologetically. Shi Fengju's expression immediately turned cold. He asked again, Who delivered it? Chang Huan wished she could slap herself on the head. She secretly regretted not keeping the maidservant just now. She thought to herself, eldest young master is really too much. In any case, it's young mistress who ordered someone to deliver the food. Why does it matter who delivered it? It's an unfamiliar maidservant. This servant doesn't recognize her. Shi Fengju coldly snorted. I'm not hungry. Take it out. He knew it. At this moment, Sangwon probably hated him to death. How could she possibly deliver food to him? She definitely didn't send someone to deliver the food. Otherwise, why would she randomly point out a maidservant and directly hand her over to Chang Huan before running away? Eldest young master, you should eat some. In any case, this is young mistress's goodwill. Scram. Shi Fengju dangerously narrowed his eyes and stared at Chang Huan. This frightened Chang Huan so much that she shrank her neck. Yes. This servant will take her leave. She hurriedly left. Shi Fengju subconsciously raised his hand to gently caress his face. His eyes suddenly narrowed and he didn't know what to think. His heart was in a mess. That night, Shi Fengju didn't return to Ning Garden to rest. He sent someone over to tell them that he had something to deal with and wouldn't be coming over for the next few days. He also had Chang Huan pack a few sets of household clothes and go over, as if they were living separately. Mama Li couldn't remain calm. However, she had no idea what had happened between the two of them. She had no way of persuading them. She could only smile and smooth things over. It's going to be the new year soon. There must be too many matters in the business. It's more convenient for eldest young master to stay in the study to deal with them. These days, we should ask the kitchen to make more nourishing food for eldest young master. What do you think, young mistress? When Sangwon heard that he wouldn't be coming back, she secretly sighed in relief. At the same time, she felt disappointed for no reason. She absent-mindedly said, You can do as you see fit. There's nothing for us to worry about when you're doing things. Mama Li smiled and agreed. She took advantage of the situation and said with a smile, "That's true, but your eldest young master's wife. What you do for eldest young master is different from what we servants do. If you did the same thing, eldest young master would be very happy." Sangwon smiled and didn't reply. She only acted as if she didn't know what she meant. Mama Lee secretly sighed and could only leave it at that. The next day, Peony Park. "Is what you're saying true? Eldest cousin left Ning Garden with a face full of anger yesterday and didn't return? He also rested alone in the study last night?" Gu Fengzi's voice was filled with excitement. "It's absolutely true." Lan Xiang was also excited. She smiled and said, "How could what this servant heard from the people in Ning Garden be false? But it's a pity that our people in Ning Garden only do some rough work. We can't find out what happened." Knowing this is enough, Gu Fengzi smiled coldly. "I've waited for this day for too long. It's finally come. Sangwon, that slut, she's finally showing her fox tail. I want to see how long she can jump around after losing favor with eldest cousin this time." "Young miss, as long as you grasp this opportunity, eldest young master will definitely change his mind," Lan Xiang hurriedly said. "Do I need you to say that?" Gu Fengzi rolled her eyes and sneered. "I want to let eldest cousin know who is truly good to him, and who is the most suitable woman for him. Eldest young master has only been confused by eldest young mistress for a while. He will definitely wake up one day. After all, you grew up with him. If it wasn't for eldest young mistress playing tricks, how could eldest young master treat you so coldly? This servant will help you prepare. When eldest young master returns from the business, we'll..." Chapter 137. Lan Xiang was full of energy as she helped Gu Fengzi come up with ideas. She couldn't wait for Gu Fengzi to reconcile with Shi Fengjiu immediately. On one hand, she was loyal to her master. More importantly, only when Gu Fengzi reconciled with Shi Fengjiu would her bitter days come to an end. These days, Gu Fengzi had been rebuffed by Shi Fengjiu. Naturally, he would vent his anger on her. This kind of feeling of living in fear and trepidation was really uncomfortable. "No." Gu Fengzi's eyes lit up. Then, she held back and shook her head. "Now is not the time. Let's wait a little longer. Let's talk about it in 2 or 3 days. It's also good for big cousin to think clearly about who really cares about him." Previously, she lost because she was too eager for quick success. Now, she had to learn to be calm and wait for the best opportunity. She couldn't repeat the same mistake. Men were all wretched wretches. The more they couldn't get, the more they wanted. She couldn't be so cheap and take the initiative to show goodwill. She had to think of a good idea. It would be best if he took the initiative to look for her. But young miss. Lan Xiang was anxious. How could she watch such a good opportunity fly past her eyes? She hurriedly said, "Young miss, if we delay there will be changes. What if young mistress admits her mistake and reconciles with eldest young master? Then wouldn't we lose our chance? Young miss, don't forget that young mistress has Mama Lee by her side. How can Mama Lee watch young master and young mistress quarrel without saying a word? Young mistress can't disobey her words. Young master will also give her face." Gu Fengzi's heart trembled. "That's true. What you said makes sense." Gu Fengzi's originally confident heart was immediately disrupted by Lan Xiang's words. It was as if a stone was thrown into a calm lake and stirred up ripples. "That's right, Mississippi. We have to strike while the iron is hot." Lan Xiang continued to persuade her. Young master might be feeling depressed about Rizhong right now. If young miss appeared to comfort him and treat him well, would young master not remember the good things you did in the past? Isn't that just nice? You're quite enthusiastic. You're quite knowledgeable. I can't tell. Gu Fengzi raised her eyebrows and stared at Lan Xiang with a faint smile. This servant thanks miss for the praise. Lan Xiang happily bent her knees and thanked him. Suddenly, she felt that Gu Fengzi's smile and tone were a little strange. There was a slight coldness and vigilance. Lan Xiang's heart trembled and she hurriedly knelt down. "Young miss, this servant is wholeheartedly and loyally thinking for young miss. This servant does not dare to have any improper thoughts. This servant is alone, and has no one to rely on. The only person I can rely on is young miss. If you are well, then this servant is well. If you are neglected, then this servant will also suffer. All right. I know that you are loyal. Quickly get up. Gu Fengzi waved her hand and frowned slightly. Thinking about it, she might have been overthinking. She was just a servant who had no one to rely on. Other than relying on her, what else could she do? Initially, she had specially bought Lan Xiang to be her confidant and nurtured her because she did not have any connections with the Shi family and was easy to control. She guessed that this servant would not dare to have any disloyalty. However, that last sentence was really unpleasant to hear. When had she, Gu Fengzi, ever been neglected? She was just observing her mourning. Keep an eye on him. Once eldest cousin comes back, quickly come and tell me. Also, give 2 taels of silver to the kitchen, and let Aunt Han make a pot of bamboo chicken soup for me. Yes, young miss. Lan Xiang's spirit rose and she hurriedly replied and got up from the ground. Do you want to prepare young Miss's clothes and accessories first? Gu Fengzi lowered her head and looked at the plain clothes she was wearing. A trace of disgust flashed past her eyes. No need. Just these simple clothes are fine. Anyway, each piece is more or less the same. Humph, how can those pieces of scrap metal be called accessories? Lan Xiang did not dare to say anything else and hurriedly went to prepare. Before Lan Xiang's advice, Gu Fengzi was full of confidence and was very calm. However, after hearing Lan Xiang's words, she could no longer remain calm. She was simply restless and her heart was in a mess. How could she have any intention of staying for 3 to 4 days? She couldn't wait for Shi Fengju to come back, so that she could immediately go and find him. She was also afraid that if she didn't move fast enough, Ning Garden would be the first to kidnap him. Then she would have been happy for nothing. Even if that slut Sangwon was unreasonable and refused to take the initiative to give in, there was still that shrewd Mama Li in Ning Garden. Gu Fengzi's guess was right. Mama Li really did try to persuade Sangwon. There are times when teeth and tongues meet, let alone 2 people? What kind of overnight grudge do 2 people have? This kind of life has to go on, right? Young mistress, listen to what old slave said. After this night, all your anger should have dissipated, right? If there's anything, just talk it out. It's going to be the new year soon. If first madam finds out that you and eldest young master are like this, won't she be sad? Young mistress, should old slave ask someone to watch over eldest young master, and invite him over when he comes back? Then ask the kitchen to make a few dishes that you 2 like, and prepare a pot of good wine. Everything will be fine after you talk things out. Mama, Sangwon smiled and said. You misunderstand. Eldest young master is the head of the household. How would I dare to blame eldest young master? Moreover, I don't have anything to be angry about. Ning Garden is eldest young master's place. If he wants to come back, he can come back. Wan Yang has nothing to say. Nanny, you can do whatever you want. Mama Li couldn't say a word after Sangwon said that. Sangwon clearly looked very normal, but there was something wrong with her. Then, Mama Li probed. That old slave invited eldest young master over. Will young mistress give eldest young master a hard time? Will she still treat him like before? Of course. Sangwon looked at her strangely and smiled. Mama, you're really thinking too much. Wan Yang will do her duty as a wife and serve her husband. That was all. Mama Li still felt that something was wrong. She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Actually, she was also very puzzled. Young mistress was gentle, generous, and had a gentle temperament. She had never changed to serve young master wholeheartedly, taking care of him meticulously. She had taken care of his basic necessities of life, but something was different. Although she didn't know what it was, she knew that eldest young master was angry about this. But young mistress's actions were all right. She couldn't persuade her even if she wanted to. Since that was the case, if eldest young master came, he would still be angry. It would be better if he didn't come. Perhaps eldest young master really has something to deal with. Let's talk about it again in a few days. But young mistress, listen to old slave's advice. You and eldest young master are husband and wife. You have to continue living together. Even if it's not for eldest young master, don't make yourself too sad. Old slave really cares about you from the bottom of his heart. That's why he's willing to say these words to you. Yesterday, Sangwon's crying had completely aroused Mama Lee's maternal instincts. Her crying had softened her heart. Unknowingly, she had become closer to Sangwon. If it was in the past, when Sangwon was at odds with Shifengju, she would definitely help Shifengju. Mama, I understand. Sangwon smiled gratefully and nodded. Old slave knows that you're an understanding person, Mama Lee said with a smile. Finally, the long day had passed. Gu Fangzi had changed into a new set of clothes and combed her hair again. The chicken soup that had been simmering in the kitchen for the entire day had been sent over. It was simmering on the small stove. Gu Fangzi looked outside from time to time to see when Lan Xiang would return. Unexpectedly, after waiting for a long time, the sun had set in the west and the sunset had dimmed, but Lan Xiang still hadn't returned. Gu Fangzi couldn't help but become impatient. She angrily cursed a few times. When she looked up, she finally saw Lan Xiang coming in from outside. Gu Fangzi was delighted. She didn't wait for Lan Xiang to come in, and quickly ran out to greet her. She stopped Lan Xiang in the courtyard and said, "Why are you so slow? Has eldest cousin come back?" Lan Xiang's face revealed a bit of fear. She shook her head and smiled. "Not yet, this servant." "Then why did you come back?" As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her head, Gu Fangzi said in a bad mood. "Hurry up and keep an eye on him." Lan Xiang hurriedly said. "This servant heard from the servant in the study that eldest young master has a dinner party outside tonight, and will be back later." So. Gu Fangzi was stunned. Naturally, she was disappointed. However, it was fine. If he was drunk, that would be even better. "Tell the kitchen to not forget to prepare a bowl of hangover soup. Hurry up and eat. After eating, continue to keep an eye on him. When eldest cousin comes back, hurry up and tell me. Go." Gu Fangzi ordered. "Yes, young miss. Young miss, don't worry. This servant will keep an eye on him." Lan Xiang wanted to help Gu Fangzi into the room. "This servant will serve young miss the meal first." "No need. Just have the servant bring the meal to me. Business is more important. Hurry up." Then she snorted. "If you delay my business, you should know. This servant understands. This servant will go now." Lan Xiang's heart tightened as she hurriedly left. When Shifengju returned, the moon was already in the middle of the sky. Lan Xiang confirmed that he had returned to the study and hurriedly ran back to Peony Park to tell Gu Fangzi. Gu Fangzi had been waiting for an entire day, and the opportunity had finally arrived. She felt as though the clouds had finally parted, and the moon had finally seen the light. She could not help but smile brightly. "Quickly serve the hangover soup. We'll head over now." "Yes, young miss." Lan Xiang ignored her exhaustion and hurriedly replied. When the hangover soup was served and they were about to leave, Gu Fangzi stopped in her tracks. "No, let's wait for a while more. We can't go too quickly. If they left too quickly, it would be too obvious." Gu Fangzi forced herself to calm down. At the very least, it would take a quarter of an hour. Lan Xiang wanted to persuade her again, but when she saw her young miss's determined expression, she obediently shut her mouth. She said yes and obediently stood to the side to wait. To an impatient person, a quarter of an hour of torment was essentially the same as a day of torment. After waiting for so long, Gu Fangzi said, "Let's go." She walked out with large strides. Lan Xiang hurriedly carried the food box and followed. When they reached the courtyard of the study, Gu Fangzi took the food box from Lan Xiang's hands. She took a few deep breaths to calm her anxious expression and slowly walked in. Chapter 138. "Oh, young lady cousin, why are you here?" Chang Huan was surprised to see her, and quickly came forward with a smile. Why did these words sound so harsh? Gu Fangzi was slightly displeased and raised her eyebrows with a smile that wasn't a smile. "What? Can't I come?" Chang Huan was stunned. "Ayo." She lightly slapped her own mouth and smiled. "Look at this servant's stinky mouth. What nonsense are you saying? If you can come, of course you can come. This servant is just speaking nonsense. Young lady cousin, please don't mind it. I was just joking with you. How am I so petty?" Gu Fangzi slyly blinked her eyes and giggled. Chang Huan was stunned and also giggled. She muttered in her heart. The sun must have risen from the west. Young lady cousin is actually not angry really. I really don't know what to say. Gu Fangzi faintly smiled. Eldest cousin is back? I heard that he drank, so I brought some hangover soup for him. How is it? He's not that drunk, is he? You guys, if you go out with eldest cousin, you should at least advise him to not drink too much. It's not good for his body to get drunk. Gu Fangzi spoke as she walked towards the study. Chang Huan wanted to stop her, but didn't dare to go forward. She could only quickly follow and listen to her lecture as she quietly said, "Yes. Young lady cousin." Chang Huan finally gathered her courage and stopped Gu Fangzi at the door of the study. She smiled and said, "It's late and cold. Young lady cousin, you should quickly go back and rest. This servant will send the hangover soup. Young master is a bit drunk. I'm afraid that young lady cousin won't be able to speak even if you go in now." Eldest cousin is drunk, Gu Fangzi anxiously said. "No. Then I have to take a look. Don't disturb him, quickly open the door for me." Young lady cousin. What? Gu Fangzi narrowed her eyes dangerously as she stared at Chang Huan. Her tone was slightly cold. This servant doesn't dare. Chang Huan was shocked and hurriedly opened the door. Gu Fangzi called out cousin a few times and walked straight to the side room where Shi Fengju usually rested. Sure enough, she saw him lying on the Kong bed, covered with a blanket. Big cousin. Big cousin. Gu Fangzi shook him with heartache. Shi Fengju didn't drink much and was only half sober. He opened his eyes and saw Gu Fangzi. He immediately sat up and frowned. Cousin? Why are you here? It was this sentence again. Master and servant were truly of the same mind. Gu Fangzi's heart was filled with hatred, but her face was full of gentleness and worry. I heard that you were drunk, so I came over to take a look. Look at you. Why are you lying here instead of returning to Ning Garden after getting drunk? Elder sister would be so heartbroken if she knew. Shi Fengju might believe these words if it was said by someone else, but when it came from Gu Fangzi, he only felt that it was ridiculous and disgusting. This woman still liked to treat him like a fool and play tricks on him. If there's nothing else, you can go back first. I didn't drink much and will be fine after a quiet rest. Shi Fengju said lightly. Gu Fangzi observed Shi Fengju's expression and noticed that when she mentioned Sangwan, there was a slight change in his expression. She couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Sure enough, there was a problem. Good, that's great. And I'll go back after you drink the hangover soup. I specially asked someone to make this soup for you. It will help you sober up and calm your nerves. I guarantee that you'll have a good night's sleep after drinking it. Come, drink it quickly. Gu Fangzi said as she ordered Lan Xiang to bring out the hangover soup. When did she become so obedient? Shi Fengju was also a little surprised. He thought that he had drunk too much and was hallucinating. Leave it here. I'll drink it myself later. Shi Fengju shook his head. Her behavior was too strange, and it still made him very uncomfortable. Eldest cousin, drink it quickly. Otherwise, won't you feel uncomfortable? I really care about you. Ever since we were young, haven't we always? Cousin. Shi Fengju didn't want to hear about the past. He interrupted. You can go back first. Eldest young master. Before Gu Fangzi could say anything, Mama Li came in with a lunchbox in her hand. When she saw Gu Fangzi, she couldn't help but be startled. Oh, why is Miss Gu here too? This was the third time she had heard this tonight. No matter how good-tempered Gu Fangzi was, she couldn't help but get angry. Moreover, she wasn't a good-tempered person to begin with. What? I can't come? I'm here to show my concern for my husband. Do I need Mama Li's permission to come? Gu Fangzi said unhappily. Miss Gu, what are you saying? Mama Li smiled and said, Eldest young master drank tonight and needs to rest. Miss Gu, don't disturb eldest young master anymore. Quickly go back. Gu Fangzi was already secretly regretting her sarcastic words. If she were to fall out with Mama Li in front of Shi Fengju, wouldn't all her previous forbearance be in vain? She was regretting it in her heart, but when she saw that Mammy Li was still so good-tempered, she felt happy and said with a soft smile, I was about to leave. I brought some hangover soup to serve eldest cousin. After drinking it, I was ready to leave. I didn't expect that Mammy Lee also came. Fengzi was a little rude just now. Nanny, please don't take it to heart. Possessed by a ghost? Mama Lee jumped in fright and stared at Gu Fengzi in astonishment. She looked at her from head to toe to make sure she did not see wrongly. Gu Fengzi was angered by her undisguised gaze and expression. She thought to herself, you wretched old woman. You're just born to be cheap. I'm giving you a little face, but you're not used to it. Nanny, is there something wrong with Fengzi? Although she thought so, she did not show it on her face. Instead, she smiled embarrassedly. There's nothing like that. Mama Lee retracted her gaze and laughed without holding back. This old slave just felt that it was strange. How did Miss Gu suddenly change into a different person? So Miss Gu is here to deliver hangover soup to eldest young master. What a rare occurrence. Gu Fengzi especially disliked Shi Fengju drinking outside. Every time Shi Fengju returned with the smell of alcohol, she would throw a tantrum and grumble. Why would she prepare hangover soup for him? But at that time, Shi Fengju doted on her and coaxed her instead. He was not even in the mood to drink the hangover soup that Mama Lee personally prepared. Mama Lee was both distressed and angry. Every time, it was unbearable. When Gu Fengzi heard that, she took advantage of the situation and said, Nanny, what are you saying? Fengzi's heart is actually for big cousin's good. In the past, Fengzi didn't like big cousin drinking outside because drinking is bad for his health. That's why Fengzi was so angry every time. But now, Fengzi understands that with the Shi family's business being so big, it's inevitable for big cousin to drink outside. How can he not touch a drop of wine? Fortunately, big cousin is a sensible person and never drinks excessively. Fengzi's heart is at ease. Nanny, big cousin has always been obedient to you, so you have to persuade him more. Mama Lee was stunned again and was speechless. What was Miss Gu trying to do? Since Nanny is here, Fengzi can rest assured with Nanny taking care of big cousin. Just now, big cousin refused to drink the hangover soup and Fengzi was about to persuade him. Nanny, it's better for you to persuade him. Then Fengzi will take her leave first. Gu Fengzi smiled again and looked at Shi Fengju affectionately. She nodded to Mama Lee and turned to leave. Miss Gu, the old slave, did not have the intention to chase you away. Mama Lee regained her senses and quickly said, Listen to what Nanny said. How can Nanny be such a person? Fengzi has never thought of it that way. Gu Fengzi smiled good-naturedly and looked into Mama Lee's eyes. She said frankly, these days Fengzi has thought about many things and understood many things. Nanny, if Fengzi has offended you in the past, please forgive me. In the future, Fengzi knows what to do. Nanny, please be at ease. After that, she smiled sweetly and left with Lan Xiang. Mama Lee opened her mouth, but was speechless for a long time. Shi Fengju's gaze deepened. He glanced at Mama Lee and secretly shook his head. Nanny is smart, but there are times when she can't see things clearly. In the past he could not see Mount Tai, but now, how could the truth escape his eyes? Shi Fengju sneered in his heart. Don't treat him like a fool. It was enough for him to do such a foolish thing once. If he were to do it again, he would not be fit to be in charge of such a huge family business. People really need to experience something before they can understand reason. Mama Lee said as she scooped out a bowl of hangover soup and gave it to Shi Fengju. She smiled and said, Young master, drink it while it's still hot. You can rest early after drinking it. Nanny, I didn't drink much and I'm not drunk. Why should I drink hangover soup? Shi Fengju smiled bitterly. If not for the two of you coming over, I would have fallen asleep long ago. As for whether he could really fall asleep, Shi Fengju did not consider it. That won't do. Mama Lee forced the bowl into his hands. Miss Gu is right about one thing. Your health is important. You can't be so careless with your health. Drink it quickly, or else Nanny will feel uneasy. Shi Fengju had no choice but to drink half a bowl. That's good, Mama Lee said happily. Old slave will go back first. Ask Chang Huan to come in and serve you. Nanny. Shi Fengju saw that Mama Lee did not mention Sang Wan and finally could not help but ask hesitantly, Wan Yang, is she okay? Mama Li was happy to see that he was still thinking about Sangwon. She smiled and said, she's fine, she's fine. The ointment is very effective. The injury on my hand is almost healed. Young master, it's not that old slave wants to scold you, but what did you do to make young mistress cry like that yesterday? Old slave has never seen young mistress lose her composure. It really makes my heart ache. Yesterday, did she cry for a long time? Shi Fengju's heart tightened. He could not help but think of that woman's embarrassed, angry, and tear-stained face. His heart ached for her. He was really bewitched yesterday. How could he treat her like that? Old slave has been persuaded, Mama Li sighed. Don't worry, it's fine today. Old slave really doesn't understand. What are you two fighting about? Young master, young mistress is so good to you. You can't treat her like this. Shi Fengju smiled. Nanny Wan Yang is my wife. I know how to treat her. Nanny, is she still angry at me? Mama Li looked deeply at Shi Fengju and said thoughtfully, this old slave really doesn't understand. Young master, I'm not afraid of being laughed at. Old slave's eyes can be considered to have seen countless people. But what young mistress is thinking right now, old slave really doesn't understand. What's wrong with her? Shi Fengju quickly asked. Chapter 139. Mama Li said with a headache. Old slave tried to persuade young mistress today, but young mistress had a smile on her face and spoke amiably and calmly. She didn't look like she was angry at all. She understood the reason. However, old slave kept feeling that something was wrong. He just couldn't feel at ease. He kept feeling that old slave didn't know what to say. Shi Fengju's heart sank. She still minded. So Nanny also felt it. Shi Fengju smiled helplessly. Nanny, tell me, compared to before, is Wan Yang different? Isn't that so? Mama Li said, although young mistress still cares and takes care of young master these days, she seems to have distanced herself from you. In any case, it's different from before. Yes, she deliberately distanced herself from me. Shi Fengju sighed. She still resents me for not helping her. No wonder she's angry. However, that's my eldest sister after all. Eldest sister has always been strong-willed. Although she doesn't say it, I know that she more or less feels like she's living under someone else's roof. It's not easy for her. I can't hurt her anymore. Otherwise, even my mother will be sad. There are some things that we can only turn a blind eye to. But this time, Sangwon will definitely be wronged. There's nothing we can do about it. Mama Li suddenly understood. It's not only young mistress who has been wronged. In old slave's opinion, you've also been wronged. Young mistress is a reasonable person. Don't worry, she'll understand this matter. After all, she still has to live on, right? If she doesn't understand, she'll have to plant a thorn in her heart. That won't be good either. However, young mistress's face can't be lost. Young master, you have to persuade eldest Missy. Even if it's a big matter, how can she point at young mistress's nose and scold her and even hit her? If the servants see this, how can young mistress continue to live? It's my fault. I won't do it again. Shi Fengju said in his heart. Wasn't it enough that they had made such a scene this time? If there's a next time, Wan Yang will probably ignore me for the rest of my life. Shi Fengju's expression froze for a moment, and then he became agitated again. How could he continue living like this? Could they really live on? She seemed determined to leave this time. Would he be able to make her stay? Nanny, you have to help me take good care of Sangwon. In a few days, I'll be back in a few days. I'll really be busy these few days, so please tell her not to worry. Shi Fengju made up his mind. In any case, he would not let her go. In any case, the words had already been spoken. As long as he didn't admit that there was any messy agreement, then there was no such thing. Don't worry, first young master. Old slave will take good care of young mistress. With your words, old slave will be relieved. Young mistress will also be happy. Young master, you should rest. Old slave will go back first. Mama Li said happily. Nanny, go ahead. Shi Fengju nodded and smiled. Mama Li went back happily and told Sangwon everything. Naturally, she exaggerated a bit and praised Shi Fengju, saying how much he missed and cared about young mistress. Sangwon knew that she had always been on Shifengju's side, so she didn't think much of it and listened obediently out of politeness. Young master said that he's really busy these days and will be back in a few days. Young mistress, you see, young master's heart is always on your side. No matter what he did, it's all in the past, isn't it? Young mistress, you shouldn't remember it. Old slave noticed that young mistress hasn't been coming to visit these days, right? It seems that young master must have said something to her. That kind of absurd thing won't happen again. Young mistress, don't worry. Mama Lee let it slip as she spoke. Miss Gu also went to the study tonight to curry favor. Fortunately, old slave happened to bump into her. Young mistress, you have to be alert. Don't let others take advantage of you. Sangwon blinked and finally asked, younger sister also went to the study tonight? Mama Lee secretly chided herself for being so quick with her words. She could only smile and say, yes, Miss Gu sent young master a hangover soup. However, before young master could drink it, old slave arrived. After that, Miss Gu left. Young master drank the hangover soup that we sent over. Sangwon couldn't help but have a strange feeling in her heart. His beloved cousin sent him a hangover soup. He must be very happy and gratified, right? If I had known earlier, we wouldn't have sent it over. Sangwon smiled faintly. Younger sister is really attentive. Young master must be very happy to see her, right? No. Mama Lee said flatly. Young master let her go without saying a few words. Old slave saw it clearly. Young master's heart is now with you. He doesn't treat Miss Gu as well as before. This is young master's wisdom. She's only a concubine now. How can she compare to you? Young master will never allow her to bully you. Sangwon smiled non-committally. Nanny, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, as long as I'm the Sher family's young mistress, I'll do my best. This old slave knows you're an understanding person. Mama Lee nodded with a smile. However, she still felt that something was amiss. Missy, if we leave now, won't our efforts be in vain? Lan Xiang couldn't help but ask softly after leaving the study room. You talk too much. Gu Fengzi had a stomach full of anger. Hearing that, she poked Lan Xiang's head and glared. What can we do if we don't leave? If we stay there any longer, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold it in and quarrel with that old hag again. Then all our efforts will be in vain. Lan Xiang was stunned and felt a little strange. What's wrong with Missy? When did she become afraid of Mama Lee? Don't you know how to retreat in order to advance? You won't understand even if I tell you, Gu Fengzi said in annoyance. Stop talking, let's go back. If she wanted to change her image, she had to seize the opportunity bit by bit. She couldn't be impatient at all. Otherwise, she would really have no hope. Thinking of Mama Lee's shocked expression and apologetic expression, Gu Fengzi felt refreshed and felt that her grievances last night were not in vain. And her big cousin, his expression was also very calm. He didn't get angry like the previous few times. It could be seen that it was effective. Gu Fengzi suddenly stopped in her tracks. Wake up earlier tomorrow morning and find out if big cousin went back to Ning Garden to rest tonight. Yes, Missy. Lan Xiang quickly agreed. If big cousin was resting in the study room tonight, it meant that he had really fallen out with Sangwon, that be *tch. Even Mama Lee's help was useless. Then, her chance would really come. If he was persuaded by Mama Lee to go back to Ning Garden tonight, then, Gu Fengzi became irritated and frowned. Go to Ning Garden now and secretly guard the entrance. See if big cousin went back. She didn't want to wait until tomorrow. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. Missy, Lan Xiang said with a bitter face. Then how long do I have to guard? I don't know when eldest young master will go back. Stupid. Gu Fengzi said in annoyance. It's already late. If big cousin goes back to Ning Garden, he will definitely go with Mama Lee. You just have to see if Mama Lee goes back alone. Yes, the servant understands. Lan Xiang's spirit was lifted. She felt a bit better now that she had some hope. If she had to keep guarding outside Ning Garden, she would freeze to death in the cold night. After sending Gu Fengzi back to Peony Park, Lan Xiang went back to her room and put on a thick layer of clothing before hurriedly leaving. Not long after, Lan Xiang brought back good news to Gu Fengzi. Gu Fengzi was so excited that her eyes were shining. She repeatedly said good and praised Lan Xiang greatly. She also gave her the best silver hairpin. Tonight, she could finally have a good night's sleep. The next morning, Gu Fangzi went to sit in front of Wang as usual and said a few words. Sangwon felt a bit uneasy when she saw her today. She was afraid that she would complain in a roundabout way to Wang and say that Shi Fengju was sleeping in the study last night. No matter what the reason was, Wang would definitely complain that she, as a wife, didn't take care of her husband. Otherwise, why would he rather sleep in the study than go back home? Unexpectedly, Gu Fangzi didn't say a word about it. She greeted her politely with a smile and said a few words. Sangwon was very confused. After leaving Wang, Sangwon suddenly realized, of course, she wouldn't mention it. If she did, Wang wouldn't just stand by and watch her and Shi Fengju quarrel. She would definitely intervene and mediate. Of course, this wasn't what Gu Fangzi wanted to see. She was afraid that not only would she not mention it, she would even kindly help her cover it up. Sangwon's guess was right. Gu Fangzi was thinking this way. She couldn't wait for them to quarrel as much as possible. She wouldn't do something that would harm herself. Not long after Sangwon left, Shi Fengju also came over. Unless he had something urgent to deal with, he would always pay his respects to Wang before leaving every day. After Shi Fengju left, Gu Fangzi couldn't help but say to Wang, "Cousin looks a little haggard." Oh. Wang immediately took this to heart. She thought about it and said, "Really? I didn't pay much attention to it just now." "I think so too." "Sure, you may seize the opportunity to complain about Sangwon," she said. "Second brother's complexion is not very good. I don't know how his wife serves her husband. Mother, you should call her over and ask her properly." "You may." Wang stared at Shi Yumei unhappily and said, "You're doing it again." "Mother, what am I doing?" Shi Yumei said discontentedly. "Didn't I already listen to you? These days, I just acted as if I didn't see her. I didn't make trouble for her. Are you still not satisfied? Don't tell me that I have to be her slave and listen to her orders. Then you should kill me with that knife as soon as possible. Besides, I didn't say anything wrong. As his wife, shouldn't she take care of second brother? Second brother's complexion is not good. If you don't ask her, who should you ask? Look at you. I only said one sentence and you said so many sentences." Wang said angrily. "What do you mean by act as if you didn't see her? How can you talk like that?" However, her daughter's words were reasonable. She should call Wan Yang over and ask her about it. Aunt, cousin has always been straightforward. She doesn't have any bad intentions. Don't blame her. I think cousin's character is very good. She's honest and not pretentious," Gu Fangzi said with a smile. Chapter 140. Look at mother, even Fangzi said the same thing. Only Fangzi knows what's going on. All of you are blaming me. Anyway, if you want me to fawn over others like a servant, I can't do it. Shi Yumei hurriedly said. Enough. Yua. It's all mother's fault for spoiling you. When you hit a wall, you'll know what's good for you. Wang glared at her unhappily. This daughter of hers, she was really going to be angered to death by her. Forget it, she'll just let her be. These days, she had really restrained herself quite a bit. It's fine if everyone's face is all right. Wang was about to ask someone to invite Sangwon over when Gu Fangzi hurriedly said with a smile. This is Aunt Wang doting on cousin Fangzi. Which mother wouldn't dote on her own daughter, and be willing to let her be wronged? But cousin Fangzi's words are a little biased. Sister Fangzi has always been attentive, and takes good care of big cousin. I'm sure she won't fail to take good care of big cousin. Hey! She bullied you so much and you're still speaking up for her. Shi Yumei became anxious, and almost jumped up to cut off Gu Fangzi's words. Gu Fangzi hated to be interrupted when she was talking, so she was a little unhappy. But how would she dare to have an opinion on Shi Yumei? She smiled good-naturedly and hurriedly said, Cousin Fangzi, you can't say that. Sister Fangzi has never mistreated me, so why would she? Why wouldn't she? You clearly. Shi Yumei was anxious, and was about to say how you clearly told me to prepare a bunch of examples to explain. Gu Fangzi became even more anxious and hurriedly cut her off. I really won't. Otherwise, why wouldn't Aunt Wang stand up for me and allow her to bully me? Aunt Wang, Aunt Wang. Gu Fangzi emphasized the word, Aunt Wang, and secretly gave Shi Yumei a look. Shi Yumei finally came to her senses. Yes, she couldn't let her mother know. If she knew, she would be angry and it would have a bad effect on her health. His cousin's painstaking efforts to hide it from his mother could not be ruined by him. Shi Yumei forcefully shut her mouth and said sullenly, maybe. Look at you. Wan Yang always knows her limits, unlike you. Wang rolled her eyes at Shi Yumei. Gu Fangzi could only smile and say, Cousin Gu Fangzi is doing this for me out of kindness. It's all my fault for making Cousin Gu Fangzi worry. Aunt, please don't blame Cousin Gu Fangzi. Fangzi, you're getting more and more sensible. Wang praised with a smile. It's all thanks to Aunt Wang's good teachings. Gu Fangzi smiled modestly before continuing. Perhaps it's because it's nearing the end of the year, and there are too many things to do in the business. There are also a lot of accounts to check and settle. Cousin must be too tired. Around this time in the past, he would be busy for a long time. That's true. How could I have forgotten about this? Wang felt even more sorry for her son and sighed. But it can't be helped. Other than Fengjiu, there's no one else who can help him with these matters. AI, it must be hard on this child. As Wang Shi spoke, she instructed Nanny Jiang. Tell the kitchen to make more nutritious, nourishing, and delicious food for young master every night. Also, I have 2 caddies of bird's nest here. Send it to Ning Garden later. See if there are any good old ginseng and send 2 good ones together. Nanny Jiang quickly bowed and agreed. Aunt really cares for Cousin Gu Fangzi. No wonder he's so filial to you. Gu Fangzi praised with a smile. AI, which mother doesn't care for her son? Wang smiled and waved her hand disapprovingly. Hearing her words, she felt very comfortable. Gu Fangzi then said, "All right, Aunt, I'm quite free now. I think I can help Cousin Gu Fangzi share some of his burden. I wonder if..." Shi Yumei's eyes lit up and she clapped her hands with a smile. "I think that's the best. Anyway, you've helped second brother with the business accounts in the past years. With you sharing the burden, second brother won't be so tired." Wang also felt that it was a good idea, but she asked again, "But are you really free?" Gu Fangzi quickly smiled and said, "Filial piety is about the intention. Once the intention is there, filial piety will be fulfilled. I'll burn 3 joss sticks every morning and night, chant the scriptures, and kneel on time every day. I believe Father's spirit in heaven can feel my sincerity. Besides, Father has ordered me to repay the Shi family. Whatever I can do for the Shi family and share some of their burden, that's Father's wish. That's the greatest filial piety." "Yes, Mother, what Fangzi said makes sense." Shi Yumei nodded her head in agreement and joked. "Besides, Fangzi is now part of our family. Isn't it normal for a family member to share some of her burden?" "What you said makes sense too." Wang naturally doted on her son more. She was more than willing to let Gu Fangzi lighten her son's burden. She smiled and said, "In that case you should inform Fengju tonight." "Aunt." Gu Fangzi was a little hesitant before she smiled and said, "Aunt, can you inform big cousin about this?" "I'm afraid." "Yes, Mother." Shi Yumei added. "Otherwise, those who don't know might think that Fangzi is trying to compete for favor and spread rumors about disrespect during the filial piety period. Wouldn't that ruin Fangzi's reputation? Her good intentions would be wronged." Wang Shi ignored Shi Yumei's words and couldn't be bothered to reply. She nodded and said, "All right, I'll let Fengju know when he comes back." "Thank you, Aunt." Gu Fangzi was happy and quickly got up to thank her. She looked at Shi Yumei gratefully, and the two smiled at each other. Gu Fangzi was naturally happy to have her wish fulfilled. Shi Yumei was even happier to see Shi Fengju neglect Sangwan. From this point alone, the alliance between the two was unbreakable. Gu Fangzi knew when to stop. She accompanied Wang and said a few words before obediently saying that she wanted to go back to fulfill her filial piety. Wang smiled and nodded. In the evening, when Shi Fengju was about to return, Gu Fangzi went to Wang's place. Originally, she wanted to be more reserved and wait for news in Peony Park, while waiting for Shi Fengju to invite her. But the more she thought about it, the more uneasiness she felt in her heart. Big cousin's mind had been muddled by Sangwon, that be asterisk tch. He was no longer as rational as he used to be, and would no longer treat her as well as before. If she was by his side, she might be able to add a bit of weight. Even if he were to say something, she would be able to explain herself. If she was not around, Aunt Wang would be easily persuaded by her cousin. Gu Fengzi didn't realize that in her heart, she already knew that Shi Fengju's heart wasn't with her. That was why she came up with so many ideas. Hee hee, you child, you're too impatient. Fengju isn't back yet. Don't worry, when he comes back, I'll definitely tell him. Wang saw her come over and couldn't help but smile and joke. Mother, Fengzi is just worried about second brother. Before Gu Fengzi could say anything, Shi Yumei had already taken the initiative to explain. Otherwise, she would be happy to enjoy her life in Peony Park. Gu Fengzi hurriedly said, Big cousin is the head of the household and also Fengzi's lifelong support. Fengzi's concern for big cousin is only natural. You're really considerate. Wang couldn't help but feel moved. She ordered Xiao-chun to guard the second gate and call her over when the young master returned. Shi Fengju knew his mother's personality. When he heard that Gu Fengzi was also there, he felt a little uneasy. Hearing Xiao-chun's words, he wasn't too worried. He went back to the study room to wash his face and change his clothes before heading to the main courtyard. The moment he entered, Wang stared at his face. Shi Fengju was baffled. He raised his hand to touch his face and smiled. Mother, is there something dirty on my face? Or do you not recognize me? Why are you staring at me like that? Nonsense. Wang glared at him and hurriedly asked him to sit down. She ordered a servant to pour some wolfberry and ginseng tea. She sighed to Shi Yumei and Gu Fengzi. You've really lost some weight and your spirit isn't too good. Shi Fengju opened the tea lid and took a look. He frowned and put it aside before instructing a servant. Change it to Longjing or Bilyuakun. You're not allowed to change. Wang hurriedly said. This is the ginseng tea that mother specially asked someone to brew for you. It's good for your body. Why are you changing it for no reason? Quickly finish it. Mother. Shi Fengju didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My body is fine. What's there to nourish for? I'm not used to drinking this. What? You don't listen to mother anymore? Wang was distressed and displeased. Isn't mother doing this for your own good? Look at you. Your face is haggard and you're still saying that you're fine. Xiao-chun, quickly serve the ginseng tea to eldest young master. Yes, eldest madam. Xiao-chun picked up the tea again and offered it. Eldest young master, you should drink it. Shi Fengju knew that if he didn't drink it, mother would come in person. He couldn't wait for her to come in person, so he could only take 2 sips. That's more like it. Wang smiled with satisfaction. She reminded him. It's almost the end of the year. Although there are many things to do in the business, you still have to take care of your body. Don't blindly throw yourself into the business. Otherwise, mother will be distressed if she sees you like this. That's right. Shi Yumei also said. Nothing is more important than your health. Otherwise, what's the use of earning so much money? We don't feel at ease spending it. My family knows how to take care of me. Shi Fengju's heart warmed and he smiled. Mother, big sister, don't worry, I know what to do. Besides, I'm still young, I can still handle this. Gu Fengzi said with concern. Big cousin, what you said is wrong. You have to be more careful when you're young. If you don't notice it now, when you're older, what will happen? Wang's heart skipped a beat. That's right. Therefore, she had to find a helper for Yi and keep an eye on him. As for the candidate, of course, Gu Fengzi was the most suitable. Wang coughed and said to Shi Fengju, Fengzi is right. You always make mother worried. I know that there are some things that the shopkeepers and accountants can't make the decision for, so we have to deal with them. How about this? Let Fengzi help you share the burden. After all, wasn't it like this before? This matter is settled. Tonight, discuss it with Fengzi. Tomorrow, we'll let her help you. Gu Fengzi gently looked at Shi Fengju and her lips curved into a gentle smile. Big cousin won't think that Fengzi is a busybody, right? Chapter 141. Why wouldn't she? Shi Fengju's brows furrowed slightly. Instead of answering, he asked with a smile. Mother, why are you talking about this all of a sudden? You've never interfered in this matter before. Isn't it because I feel bad for you? Wang glared at him. You don't know how to take care of yourself. How can mother be at ease? All right, you should go back and rest. Mother, Shi Fengju said sternly, let cousin mourn in peace. She doesn't need to help with these matters. Gu Fengzi's expression changed slightly. The smile on her lips froze. He actually rejected it. This was her aunt's suggestion, and he actually rejected it. Other than feeling sad, Gu Fengzi felt an indescribable bitterness in her heart. Did he hate her so much that he didn't want to be with her? Even her aunt's words were no longer useful. Men, they really couldn't be trusted and relied on. In the past, he treated her so well. He listened to her every word, coaxed her and pampered her. How long had it been, and he had changed so thoroughly? How could she accept it? She couldn't accept it. Second brother, Fengzi has good intentions. How can you say that? Sure, you may smiled. I know. You must be afraid of affecting Fengzi's mourning and causing others to criticize her reputation, right? Don't worry about that. Mourning doesn't mean that she has to kneel in front of the coffin for the whole day. It won't clash. Besides, Uncle's intention is for her to repay our Shi family. She's following her father's orders to share your burdens. You can rest assured. Big sister, Shi Fengju said lightly. There's really no need for that. I can handle it myself. Shi Fengju couldn't help but think of Sangwon. If Sangwon hadn't fallen out with him, she would have helped him with the accounts, right? Unfortunately, she was annoyed with him that day and returned all the accounts to him. Why? Second brother, are you afraid that someone will get jealous? Shi Yumei's face turned cold with a hint of anger. Big sister, don't blame everything on Wan Yang. Shi Fengju was also a little angry. I'm a man. I know what I should do. It's not up to others to influence me. As he spoke, he glanced at Gu Fengzi from the corner of his eyes. Gu Fengzi lowered her eyes and pretended not to see, but her heart was cold. She knew that he was talking about her. Shi Yumei didn't think so much. She nodded and said, That's more like it. That's how it should be. You can't let her control you and listen to everything she says. Then he sighed and said, No, if it wasn't like this, how did you know that I was referring to her? Could it be that she's really that jealous? Shi Fengju almost wanted to roll his eyes at her. In this family, who else would say such things except for Wan Yang? Even a fool would know. You're doing it again. Shi Fengju didn't even have the mood to explain. He said lightly, Anyway, you know that I know what I'm doing. Mother, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave first. Big cousin, is big cousin so unwilling to ask for Fengzi's help? Fengzi really only wants to share big cousin's burdens, so that Aunt Wang won't be so worried. Gu Fengzi stared at him. Besides, why is it that you can do it in the past but not now? Could it be that big cousin hates Fengzi? How could that be? Fengzi, don't let your imagination run wild. Wang quickly said, Don't worry, Aunt Wang told you before. You won't be mistreated in the Shi household. As Wang said that, she gave Shi Fengju a warning stare. In fact, she could faintly feel that her son no longer treated his childhood sweetheart and cousin as the same as before. Since Fengzi had said that in front of her, she naturally wanted her son to give her a promise. Fengzi was too pitiful, and now that she had entered the Shi household, she definitely wouldn't allow her son to bully her. Cousin, you've misunderstood. Shi Fengju could only say calmly. Why would I hate you for no reason? I also know that you're doing this for me, and I appreciate it. It's just that for the past year, you haven't been involved in the business matters, so there are many things that you don't know about. You might not be able to help me. When the time comes, I'll have to explain it to you in detail. With that time, I can finish everything that needs to be done. Why should I trouble you? Don't you think so? Gu Fengzi couldn't help but feel regretful. After Sangwon entered the household, her thoughts and fighting spirit were all focused on the household, so she naturally didn't pay attention to the outside world. But she also understood that since young Mistress Shi had just entered the household, the Shi household would definitely not allow her to follow big cousin around outside. So this was inevitable. But couldn't he just explain it to her? She was planning to use this opportunity to deepen their relationship, but who knew that it would become a reason for him to reject her? Gu Fengzi didn't give up and continued. Actually, these matters are about the same every year. If you explain it a little, I'll understand. You can't say it like that, Shifengju said faintly. Business matters aren't like farming. As long as there's no drought or flood, the annual harvest will be about the same. Business matters are different every day, so how can you explain it clearly in a short period of time? A slight difference can lead to a huge loss. These matters must be clarified clearly. But there's no such thing as about the same, or about the same. I believe Cousin Fengzi is very clear about this, right? What he meant was, even if you understood it in the past, it was still in the past. It's not appropriate to use it now. So forget it. Wang was also confused, but she understood one thing, and that was that Gu Fengzi couldn't help her son. Instead, she would only make things more troublesome for him. Wang still felt sorry for her son, so she didn't give up and said, "Then is there no other way? Seeing you so tired, Mother really feels sorry for you." "Mother, I know what I'm doing, you don't have to worry. If you really want to do something for me." Shifengju looked deeply at Shi Yumei and smiled. "As long as I can rest peacefully when I come home every day." "Forget it." Wang glanced at Shi Yumei and sighed. "Don't worry, if anyone dares to make trouble at home, I won't forgive them. I'll tell Wan Yang to take good care of you later. All right, go back and rest." "Mother, why are you talking about me again?" Shi Yumei was dissatisfied. Wang snorted and said directly, "Then tell me, other than you, who else is there?" Shi Yumei was speechless for a moment, and wanted to argue with Shifengju again. Wang waved her hand. "Don't make trouble for your brother again. Tell him to go back quickly." Shifengju looked at his sister with a smile that didn't look like a smile, then turned and left calmly. Shi Yumei was so angry that she tried to argue with Wang. "Aunt, I'll go back first." Gu Fengzi's heart was empty, but she forced a smile and stood up. "Go." Wang Shi smiled softly and said, "You have good intentions, Auntie understands. But since Fengju said so, then so be it, And Fengzi will pray for big cousin." Gu Fengzi nodded with a smile and bowed before leaving. She turned around and left the courtyard. Her face was as cold as ice and her heart was filled with hatred. Everything is fake. So what if I'm Aunt? She says that she cares for me, but the one she cares for the most is not her son. Her son's words are much more effective than my heartfelt words. How can there be any sincerity in this world? True sincerity can only be with oneself. Gu Fengzi was unwilling to give up and hurriedly chased after Shifengju. "Big cousin." She ran to Shifengju and smiled bitterly. "Big cousin, why do you treat me like this? Big cousin, tell me the truth. I know that what you said in front of Aunt was just an excuse." Shifengju did not say anything and only looked at her. Gu Fengzi also looked at him, her eyes filled with deep love. As she looked at him, 2 lines of tears overflowed and flowed down her cheeks. "Why am I so unlucky?" Everything was going well in the past, but ever since she became a real member of the Shi family, everything was not as good as it used to be. And all these changes were because of the man in front of her and the woman he married. It's all because of her. Seems like cousin is right. You're afraid that big sister will be angry, right? Gu Fengzi painfully closed her eyes and said sadly, "But I really just want to help you. Am I wrong to even do that?" "Cousin," Shifengju said faintly, "you should know that I don't like to be set up by others. If you want to do anything in the future, just tell me directly. There's no need to scheme and beat around the bush." Shifengju's heart was filled with disgust. Did she really think that everyone was a fool? In order to achieve her own goals, she even made use of his mother. She still hoped that he would cooperate. Dream on. You actually said that about me. In your eyes, I'm actually such a person." Gu Fengzi's face turned pale and her body became weak. She staggered back weakly. "I didn't set you up. I was just afraid that you would reject me, so I wanted to ask Aunt to help me put in a few good words. I really wanted to help you. Big cousin, have you forgotten? You said that no matter what happens, we have to bear it together. I've always remembered it. Have you forgotten?" Shi Fengju heard these words, and only felt a strong sense of irony. A woman who was full of schemes and only had herself in mind actually had the nerve to question him with the words of the past. Even now, she still thought that she was not wrong, the one who was wrong was him. Shi Fengju felt that his brain must have been kicked by a donkey to have liked her for so long. Afraid that I would reject you? Shi Fengju slightly raised his eyebrows. So you tried to use my mother to put pressure on me, right? Cousin, I was too muddle-headed before. I only know now that there are some things that you can't bear. Also, don't forget your own identity. I don't need to remind you of this, do I? Gu Fengzi froze and her face became even paler. She knew that was the last sentence he wanted to say. Identity, identity. Was he only left with this little bit of old affection for her now? Don't think about things that you shouldn't think about, and don't worry about things that you shouldn't do. Shi Fengju glanced at her deeply and walked away. Gu Fengzi's heart was filled with unprecedented fury and resentment. She stared at Shi Fengju's back for a long time without moving. Chapter 142. Status, status, and status again. However, a mere identity would not be able to trap her completely. This was only a stepping stone for her. Gu Fengzi could not imagine herself to be like concubine Shui and concubine Feng, living a cowardly life under the orders of the first madam. Her life should not be like this. Sangwan, don't be too happy too early. The debt between us is not over yet. Miss, let's go back, it's already dark. Lan Xiang saw that many passers-by were curiously glancing over, and couldn't help but gently support Gu Fengzi and advise her softly. Lan Xiang had already prepared herself for her master's anger, but Gu Fengzi only turned to smile at her and nodded. Let's go back. Lan Xiang heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly advised. Miss, actually first young master still has you in his heart. Otherwise he wouldn't be so angry. Oh, you think so? Gu Fengzi raised her eyebrows and was a little startled. Yes, Lan Xiang's spirit rose and hurriedly said. Miss, think about it. First young master was so angry because you wanted first madam to speak up for you. You didn't go directly to first young master, so first young master must feel that you have distanced yourself from him. That's why he was angry. Miss, if there's anything else in the future, why don't you tell first young master directly? This servant believes that first young master will be happy. These words touched the bottom of her heart. Gu Fengzi's eyes lit up, and her heart felt a little better. You're right, it seems like it's true. This time, I really didn't think it through enough and ended up making a fool of myself. Miss, there will be opportunities in the future, don't be discouraged. And let's talk about it later. Gu Fengzi became depressed again. The duck that was about to be in her hands had flown away again. She didn't know when there would be a suitable opportunity next time. Shi Fengju originally wanted to return to the study, but unknowingly, he walked to the entrance of Ning Garden. He unconsciously lifted his foot and was about to walk in, but his mind suddenly jolted awake. He retracted his foot and stood at the door with his hands behind his back, hesitating. To enter or not to enter made him feel rather conflicted. The young maidservants didn't dare to provoke him. They were also afraid of getting into trouble. Someone had already rushed to report to Sangwan. The rest of the maidservants didn't dare to stand in the garden and watch the scene with the young master. They pretended not to see him and left one by one. Others could avoid him, but Sangwan couldn't. She led Luya and Xingji out to welcome him. She lowered her head and greeted him. Why don't you go in, young master? Shi Fengju raised his head, and a gentle face came into view. Her eyes were calm, and her expression was tranquil. In the eyes of others she was dignified, generous, gentle, and virtuous. However, in Shi Fengju's eyes, there was clearly a lingering indifference and coldness. There was clearly an invisible chasm between the two of them that they would never be able to cross and reach each other. Shi Fengju felt a wave of irritation in his heart. He would rather she resent him, be angry with him, and lose her temper with him than to see her treat him like this. Shi Fengju's cold expression suddenly collapsed. He coldly snorted and said, "No need. Young mistress, please do as you please." As he spoke, he turned and left in a huff. "Young mistress, why is young master so polite today? Luya was a little confused. Sangwon faintly said, "Young master is a gentleman. He has always been polite to others. You lass, what nonsense are you spouting?" Luya stuck out her tongue and didn't dare to say anything else. Shifengju angrily returned to the study. That night, he naturally rested in the study. He mocked himself in his heart. Actually, the study isn't bad. At least there's a bed to sleep on, and I don't have to sleep on the floor. However, that night was destined to be a sleepless night. He couldn't help but feel a little lost. This was a woman he truly wanted to spend the rest of his life with. Would they really have a future together? If she didn't have him in her heart and remained as cold as ice, what was the use of him forcing her to stay by his side? But he couldn't bear to let her go just like that. She was originally his wife, wasn't she? Sangwon didn't have a good time either. When Mama Lee found out that Shifengju had left without entering the house, Sangwon didn't take the initiative to ask him to stay. Although she didn't blame Sangwon, she still tried to persuade her. Her words were like a torrential river that Sangwon couldn't resist. What was even more troublesome was that Yume didn't know what crazy impulse she had. When she greeted Wang the next morning, Yume actually suggested that she accompany her to go shopping. Speaking of which, I haven't gone shopping since returning to Qingzhou for so long. Sister-in-law, you won't refuse such a small request, right? Yume seemed polite, but she was actually overbearing. Eldest sister, what do you need? Isn't it more convenient to let the shopkeeper of our own shop bring the goods to your door? Why don't? I'm tired of looking at the things in our shop. I want to go shopping in other shops. Sister-in-law, are you saying that you don't want to accompany me? Yume said with a bit of anger. Wanyang, why don't you accompany your eldest sister to go shopping? Wang also wanted to let the sister-in-law and sister-in-law interact more and improve their relationship, so she said with a smile, "Speaking of which, you've been married to our family for almost a year, but you haven't gone shopping yet. You see, mother loves you so much." Yume said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Sangwon had nothing to say, so she could only agree with a smile. Then she said with a smile, "By the way, mother, why don't we ask third sister to come with us? The more the merrier." Sangwon really didn't want to go out alone with Yume. At least having someone to accompany her would be a buffer. "All right, you can ask her to come with us if she has nothing to do." Wang smiled indifferently. "Then let's go now. Sister-in-law." Yume said again. "Eldest sister, please wait for a moment. I'll ask someone to prepare the carriage. When the carriage is ready, I'll ask someone to invite you over," Sangwon said with a smile. "Okay," Yume nodded. "Then hurry up. I've never been a patient person." "Yume," Wang scolded her. "Mother, I'm a straightforward person. Haven't you gotten used to it after so many years?" Yume said coquettishly. "Eldest sister is a straightforward person. You're really straightforward," Sangwon said with a smile. Yes, I hate those who play tricks the most. If you run into me, don't blame me for being rude." Sangwon smiled and didn't say anything. She said goodbye and went to prepare the carriage. Anyway, she and Yume had never talked together, so she didn't count on it. Sangwon ordered Xingji to ask someone to prepare the carriage while she went back to Ning Garden to change her clothes. She picked a pink fur coat and put it on. Then she combed her hair and changed it into 2 brightly colored pearl hairpins. She put on a Zhaojun set and prepared a cloud brocade cloak embroidered with red plum blossoms. "See how much money we have left," Sangwon ordered Luya. This was the most important thing. Luya carried the box over with an ugly expression. She smiled bitterly and said, "Young mistress, it's all here. There's only less than 400 taels left." Sangwon suddenly felt a headache coming on. She was used to the Shur family's wealth. Even Luya used the word only when talking about 400 taels, let alone Yume. This amount was probably not enough for her. However, Sangwon didn't have much cash on hand. Her monthly allowance was 20 taels, and the servants' rewards were around 11 to 12 taels. She could only save 7 to 8 taels. Although the housekeepers and nannies would occasionally give her gifts, none of them gave her any money. After all, no matter how much money they had, how could they compare to the Shur family? It was inevitable that they would want to give her 10 or 20 taels, But it was not enough in the eyes of the young mistress. Who would have the nerve to give her money? It was better to give her something to express their sincerity. Most of the gifts were new fruits and snacks, new dishes, fragrances, cosmetics, embroidery, and handmade shoes and socks. How could Sangwon exchange these for money? If she said it out loud, people would laugh their heads off. Therefore, in the entire household, the poorest person was probably Sangwon, the Shi family's young mistress. Fortunately, Shi Fengju would give her some pocket money from time to time. These few hundred taels were all saved up in this way. What should she do? When it came to shopping, Shi Yumei would definitely not fork out any money. Even if she wanted to, Sangwon would not dare to let her do so. Otherwise, if her mother-in-law knew, she would definitely be unhappy. The master and servant pair looked at each other with worry. Oh, what's wrong with young mistress? Mama Lee came in and saw this scene. She couldn't help but be surprised and asked with a smile. Eldest Missy asked young mistress to accompany her shopping. Young mistress is worried about money. Luya smiled and said quickly. Sangwon could not stop her in time and could only smile and say embarrassedly, I didn't think that I would be so poor. If I can't even afford to buy something decent for big sister, won't I become a joke to big sister? She was afraid that Shi Yumei would not believe her and think that she was petty. That's nothing. Mama Lee smiled and said, Young mistress, you're thinking too much. You're the Shi family's young mistress. Which shop would be so blind as to accept your money? No matter what you like, you can just take it and record it. When the time comes, the shop assistant will take the bill and look for young master. Mama Lee said with a smile. If it were the old slave, young mistress, you're too honest. If you don't have money to spend, why don't you ask young master for it? It's only right for you to spend young master's money. Sangwon directly ignored the last sentence and said with a smile. Hearing Nanny say so, I'm relieved. Luya also heaved a sigh of relief. She closed the box and said, Then this servant will take it back and put it away properly. There's no need to bring it along. It's better to bring it along, Sangwon said. Bring it along in case we need to use it. Then bring half of it. Luya was still very responsible for her master's money. She said with heartache, This is all of young mistress' savings. You can't spend it all. Let's not talk about other things, but during the new year, you'll have to give a big red packet everywhere. Mama Lee and Sangwon laughed at her words. After preparing the carriage and preparing to set off, Shi Yumei grumbled a few times. Why are you so slow? And we've waited for almost an hour. These words went in one ear and out the other, but Sangwon did not pay them any heed. Sangwon felt that she really could not afford to be angry with this sister-in-law who was obviously incompatible with her. Shi Lian was also a good-tempered person. She smiled from beginning to end and her expression was tranquil, without the slightest bit of anger. Shi Yumei grumbled a few times and felt that it was boring. She unhappily shut her mouth and leaned against the wall of the carriage, regretting that Gu Fangzi did not come. Chapter 143. Eldest Missy, where are we going? The coachman asked with a smile. Shi Yumei glanced at Sangwon and said, Why don't you ask your young mistress? Your young mistress is the true head of the Shi family. You're so tactless that you don't even know the rules. Aren't you afraid that your young mistress will make you suffer? I've never strolled around Qingzhou City, and I don't have anything to buy. I'll listen to big sister. Sangwon smiled and retorted. I have no objections. I'll listen to big sister. Shi Lian also smiled and expressed her opinion. She was the one who didn't dare to provoke big sister the most. If big sister became hostile, and said something in front of mother, she wouldn't have anyone to help her. If it weren't for Sangwon's face and her intention of inviting her, Shi Lian wouldn't have come out. Shi Lian had made up her mind to be an obedient bystander today. She refused to say a single word. Go to Guanghe Street in the east of the city. I want to look at jewelry there. Shi Yumei ordered. Yes, eldest Missy. The coachman responded crisply and swung the whip. The wheels rumbled as they moved lightly in the direction of Guanghe Street. This street was famous for its gold and silver shops and rouge and powder shops. On both sides of the wide and straight street, there were rows upon rows of shops of all sizes. The street was bustling with activity. Yume gently lifted the corner of the curtain and looked outside. She was immediately delighted inside. It's still as lively as before. It hasn't changed at all. Oh no, it's much more lively than before. Many of the shops didn't seem to be here before. Look at these shops. TSK. It's not easy to compare with other places. After Yume finished speaking, there was silence. Sangwon and Shirlien didn't say anything. Sangwon kept a respectful distance from her. She had no choice but to endure her sarcasm every day, but she did not have the obligation to take the initiative to curry favor with her. On the other hand, Shirlien did not want to cause trouble, so she did not open her mouth. The atmosphere instantly turned awkward. Sangwon and Shirlien glanced at each other and saw helplessness in each other's eyes. Shirlien laughed dryly and said, "Big sister is right." Although Sangwon and Shirlien did not directly communicate with each other, their silent communication still fell into Yume's eyes. Thinking that the two of them usually had a good relationship, while she was not close to either of them, Yume suddenly felt a sense of loss and emptiness in her heart. A feeling of being an outsider and being out of tune with others arose spontaneously. How could Yume stand this? Feeling sour in her heart, she snorted coldly and said aggressively to Shirlien, "What did I say? What did I say? What is it? I didn't expect third sister to be so familiar with the streets outside." Big sister, you must be joking. This is the third time I've come out shopping in my life. How would I know? Shirlien panicked and forced a smile. If you don't know, then don't blindly agree. Do you know what I'm saying? You're just pretending. Yume glared at her angrily and even mocked Sangwon. Our family has always been honest. Don't learn to say one thing and mean another. Shirlien's face turned red and she lowered her head, not daring to say another word. She subconsciously looked at Sangwon with grievance. Sangwon did not care about what Yume said and only treated herself as a steward. She smiled faintly and said, "This area is quite lively. Do you want to go down and take a look?" No. Yume saw Sangwon's nonchalant expression and became angry. She raised her voice and said angrily, "Hurry up. Stop at Cheongfong Pavilion." Cheongfong Pavilion. Isn't that in the south of the city near Xinghuafang? The coachman was startled. Yes. That's where we're going. Why? Yume was even more annoyed. Yes, we're going now. The coachman secretly scolded himself for talking too much and hurriedly drove the carriage. He thought to himself, I'll go wherever Big Missy says. Even if she wants me to drive around Qingzhou City, I can only listen to her orders. Even Big Missy doesn't bicker with her, so I deserve to be scolded for talking too much. Sangwon and Shirlien naturally did not have any objections. Anyway, shopping was not their idea, nor was it their purpose. Yume could do whatever she wanted. As long as this day passed peacefully, everyone would be happy. Cheongfong Pavilion was a famous jewelry store in the city. It specialized in the business of high-quality jewelry. It was opened by a Fujian merchant more than 10 years ago. Today that Fujian merchant's family had settled down in Qingzhou. This jewelry store had always been operating steadily. Although it was low-key, it was the kind of store that made a lot of money silently. It was quite famous in Qingzhou's upper-class society, and earned at least 100,000 taels of silver every year. Oh, isn't this Big Missy sure? Please come in, please come in. You're a rare guest, I haven't seen you in a long time. These two madams and Miss are. When the shopkeeper saw Yume, he hurriedly greeted her with a smile. However, he did not recognize Sangwon and Shirlien. I've only been here twice. Shopkeeper-son, you still remember me. You really have a good memory. Yume was happy and a smile appeared on her face. Although she had been married for many years, her maternal family doted on her and never treated her as an outsider. Yume had a carefree personality and did not treat herself as an outsider. When she heard someone call her Big Missy Sure, she was especially happy. Look at what you're saying. Who in Qingzhou City doesn't know that you're the Big Missy Sure? Even if I've only seen you once, this old man will never forget you. Shopkeeper's son said with a smile as he invited the three people into the inner hall and ordered the waiter to prepare the best tea. Shopkeeper's son, you're too polite. Sure, you may laughed. This old man is only speaking the truth. I've made Big Missy sure laugh. Shopkeeper's son smiled in agreement. However, he looked at Shi Yume with a puzzled expression, indicating for her to introduce Sang-won and Shi Lian. After they were seated and tea was served, Shi Yume glanced at Sang-won and winked at Shopkeeper Sunday. She smiled slyly and said half-jokingly, "This time, I'll have to test Shopkeeper Sun's eyesight. Why don't you guess who these two guests are?" Shi Lian was dressed as an unmarried young lady. Although her clothes were not ordinary, her expression inadvertently revealed a bit of respect. Her eyebrows were similar to Shi Yume's, so it was likely that she was a concubine's daughter who was not favored in the Shi family. The reason why Shopkeeper's son dared to conclude that she was an unfavored concubine's daughter was because he had never seen Shi Lian before. If she was favored, how could the Shi family's first mistress not bring her out? However, the other young woman with the madam's hair was calm and graceful. Her every movement had a natural temperament that made others not dare to slight her. Although Shi Yume had given her the cold shoulder along the way, Shopkeeper's son did not see her show any signs of awkwardness or concern. From beginning to end, she was calm and amiable. Shopkeeper's son's eyes narrowed and he smiled. "Since young Mistress Shi thinks so highly of me and wants to test me, how can I not join in the fun?" As he spoke, he smiled and cupped his hands towards Sang-won. "If this old man guessed wrongly, please forgive me. It was just a joke. You are young Mistress Shi, right? Shopkeeper's son, you have good eyesight." "I am indeed our young mistress." Xingji smiled and said softly, "Aya. Honored guests, honored guests. I didn't know you were young Mistress Shi. Please forgive me for my rudeness," Shopkeeper's son said with a sincere smile. Sang-won smiled faintly and was about to reply when Shi Yume interrupted with a smile. "Shopkeeper's son, you're too polite. My sister-in-law is a magnanimous person, so why would she be so calculative with you?" He, that's right, that's right." Shopkeeper's son looked at Shi Lian and smiled. "Then this must be the house's young mistress." "This is my family's third younger sister," Shi Yume said with an impatient smile. "I say, Shopkeeper's son, do you have anything good? Hurry up and take it out. Why are you talking about useless things?" Yes. I will take it out, I will take it out." This old man was too happy. "Young mistress and the two young misses, please don't blame me." Shopkeeper's son smiled and looked around. He asked politely, "What would young mistress and the two young misses like to see?" "If there is something good, just take it out. We will only know after we see it," Shi Yume said. "This old man is confused. Look at what you are asking." Shopkeeper's son smiled and pretended to slap his own mouth. He hurriedly opened the key and brought out the treasures of the shop. Shopkeeper's son brought out 3 complete sets of fine jewelry and several individual pieces of good quality jewelry. They were placed on 4 trays covered with red velvet cloth and presented to them. One set was called Drunken Hibiscus. It was carved out of pure gold and decorated with rubies, sapphires, and emeralds. The main piece was a golden threaded hibiscus crown with 8 treasures. It was a pure gold color and exquisitely carved. Not only were the gems of different colors large, but they were also of excellent quality. They were soft and radiant, without a trace of impurities. Another set was called Lantian Pearl. It was made of gold placenta and emerald. The main piece was a phoenix head ornament with 12 pearls the size of longans and 36 pearls. The phoenix head ornament's eye was a natural black pearl the size of a thumb. It shone with a gentle light, and was very eye-catching. The last set was called Falling Petals. It was made of the most transparent jadeite and was decorated with pink, crimson, pomegranate, begonia, and other red gemstones. The red flowers and green leaves were very eye-catching. On the other tray was a jade bracelet with 18 beads, an exquisite jasper hairpin, a white jade peacock hairpin, a red coral agate pendant, and a green jade water drop pendant. All of them were of high quality and exquisite workmanship. One look and one could tell that they were expensive goods. "You really do have some good things here." Cheongfong Pavilion is indeed as impressive as the rumors say. Sure, Yume praised with a smile as she listened to shopkeeper Sun's endless explanation. You're too kind. We're just trying to make a living. How can we compare to the Sure family? The two young misses and young mistress are just looking for something new. If we were to talk about the best jewelry in Qingzhou, it would definitely be in Luli Pavilion. Luli Pavilion was one of the Sure family's businesses. There were 13 branches in the entire Jiangnan area. Shopkeeper Sun is too modest. Sure, Yume praised. Let's not talk about anything else. Luli Pavilion might not even be able to produce these 3 sets of jewelry. This old man is honored by young mistress's words. Is young mistress satisfied? Shopkeeper Sun quickly asked. Sure, Yume smiled at Sangwon and said, Sister-in-law, what do you think? How about these 3 sets? Chapter 144. Sangwon smiled and said, according to Shopkeeper Sun, each one has its own merits and is equally matched. Let's see which one big sister likes. As the saying goes, 1,000 taels of gold can't buy what's in the heart. Young mistress is right. As long as young mistress likes it, it's fine. Shopkeeper Sun said with a smile. Which one do I like? Sure, Yume said with a smile that wasn't a smile. What if I like all 3? Would sister-in-law be willing to buy them for me? Sangwon's face stiffened. Sure Lian also raised her head in surprise, but quickly lowered her eyes. Shopkeeper Sun was so excited that he felt dizzy and almost couldn't stand. 3 sets, 3 sets. If he could sell these 3 sets today, he would be able to enjoy a fat new year. The drunken hibiscus was worth 80,000 taels of silver. The Lantian pearl and falling petals were each worth 120,000 taels of silver. If he bought all 3 sets, he would be able to get a discount of a few thousand taels. At the very least, he could sell them for 300,000 taels. According to the store's rules, he could get a commission of 2%, which was 6,000 taels. Young mistress really has good taste. Shopkeeper Sun said with a smile. These 3 sets of jewelry are the treasures of our store. There is only one set in the world, and there is no other set. It's a perfect match for young mistress's status. Sister-in-law, what do you think? Sure, Yume asked with a smile. Of course it's good, Sangwon said with a faint smile. If big sister likes it, then you can buy it. Sister-in-law is so generous. Sure, Yume said with a smile. Just one move and it's already several 100,000 taels. Big sister is joking, Sangwon said with a smile. How can I take out so much money? Shopkeeper Sun, you can just give the bill to young master later. Sure, Yume's face immediately turned ugly. She said with a hint of ridicule. Using my brother's money to do a favor, you really know how to calculate. You really are worthy of being a scholarly family, so smart. Big sister's words are wrong, Sangwon said with a smile. Isn't it because big sister likes it? Since eldest sister likes it, eldest young master naturally won't have any objections. If Sangwon were to pay for this, Sure Yume would naturally have no objection. She would be more than happy to empty out her private savings. However, when it came to using Sure Fengju's money, Sure Yume felt uncomfortable in her heart. Her heart ached when her brother spent his money like that. Sure Yume raised her head and said to Manager Sun, wrap this set of drunken hibiscus for me. I'll take this set. Then he turned to Sangwon and said with a smile that was not a smile. Sister-in-law has been the head of the household for more than half a year. Could it be that you don't even have several tens of thousands of taels? I only want 1 set. Sister-in-law can't be unable to pay for such a small amount of money, right? What would her mother-in-law and the second branch think if Sure Yume went back and told them that she had amassed several tens of thousands of private savings in half a year? If she really did have the money, then it wouldn't be an unjust accusation. However, she clearly didn't have it. Sangwon didn't want to be framed for no reason. I do have it in the public accounts, and a lot of it has passed through my hands. Since big sister said so, then I'll go back and talk to the accountant and see if I can get it through the public accounts. Sangwon pretended not to understand her words. Sure Yume's face suddenly became ugly. However, It was inconvenient to talk about her private savings in front of others. She coldly snorted and didn't say anything else. Sangwon saw that she had stopped and smiled. She turned to Shirlien and said with a smile, "Third sister, why don't you also pick 1 or 2 sets? Since we've come out, we can't go back empty-handed." No need, no need. I don't usually wear these things. The amount that mother and I give each year is enough." Shirlien hurriedly declined with a smile. "Idiot, sister-in-law brought you out, so why are you being so polite? Quickly pick 1 or 2 sets." Sangwon smiled and glared at her. Shopkeeper's son also joined in the fun. He moved the tray of single pieces closer to Shirlien. Shirlien smiled and thanked him. After looking around, she picked a gold ring inlaid with red gemstones. She smiled and said, "I'll take this. This looks better. I'll take this." Sangwon smiled and took a green jade bracelet with 18 beads. She put it on Shirlien's hand and said with a smile, "Look at how beautiful it is. It's perfect for you. Young mistress really has good taste. These are the highest quality jade beads. Such a large red pomegranate Buddha head is rare. It's perfect for young mistress to wear." Shopkeeper's son also smiled. "Really? But it's a bit too expensive. Which young lady didn't like beautiful jewelry?" Shirlien gently rubbed the bracelet on her hand. It was round and smooth, and had a very nice touch. It was soft and transparent. She also liked it a bit, but she still had some doubts in her heart. She had always been self-aware. How could she dare to compare herself with Shi Yume? Not expensive, not expensive. This bracelet is only 800 taels. It's a very good price. And it's perfect for young mistress to wear. Shopkeeper's son said with a smile. "It's so expensive, yet you say it's not expensive." Shirlien was shocked. Such a small bracelet cost 800 taels. She quickly wanted to take it off. Sangwon gently stopped her hand. She smiled at shopkeeper's son and said, "I'll take this." "Sister-in-law, but no buts. If you like it, then take it." Sangwon gently patted her hand. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. "Thank you, sister-in-law." Shirlien quickly smiled and thanked her. "We're family, there's no need to be so polite." The two of them laughed. "Sister-in-law, don't you want to pick 2 pieces?" Shirlien said with a smile. Her eyes swept over the things on the tray. She knew that there wasn't anything special about the things on the tray. They couldn't be compared to what Sangwon was wearing. "I don't need them," Sangwon said with a smile. She ordered shopkeeper's son to wrap up the things she had picked. Shopkeeper's son agreed with a smile, and took away the jewelry that they didn't pick. "Please wait a moment," Shirlien said with a smile. "That's right. Which one of the things that big brother gives to sister-in-law isn't worth 1,000 taels of gold?" "You little girl, you're making fun of me. I'm praising big brother for loving sister-in-law. I wouldn't dare to make fun of sister-in-law." Humph. Shi Yume saw that the two of them were chatting and laughing intimately. She felt jealous and angry. She couldn't stand it any longer. With a cold face, she stood up and walked out. Shi Yume cursed in her heart. That damned girl Shirlien could be considered her younger sister. Normally, she had never been so intimate with her. Yet, she was so familiar with a woman who had just entered the house half a year ago. She really had a good thigh to cling to. This was a wonderful way to climb up the social ladder. She and her mother had never treated her unfairly. She really knew how to scheme. Eldest sister. Shirlien was startled and quickly stood up. She didn't know what to do. Sangwon also stood up and gently patted her hand to indicate that it was fine. The two of them left together. "Eldest sister," Sangwon called out with a smile. "The things you wanted haven't been packed yet. Let's wait a little longer." Shi Yume suddenly stopped and turned her head to look at her. She said indifferently, "I don't want to wait. How about it? Tell shopkeeper's son to send it back to the house." Sangwon didn't get angry with her. She smiled and said, "That's fine." She went to sign the papers and told the counter. When she turned around, Shi Yume had already left the shop. Sangwon and Shirlien put on their bridal hats and went out with Luya, Xingji, and Kai Yun. When they arrived at the carriage, Shi Yume impatiently said, "Why are you so slow? I see that you sisters-in-law have a lot to talk about. Haven't you talked enough? I'm really sorry. I've spoiled your fun. Look at what eldest sister is saying, Sangwon said with a smile that was neither soft nor hard. Oh right, where does eldest sister want to go? Sure, Yume saw that Sangwon didn't have the slightest bit of embarrassment or apologetic expression on her face. She felt even angrier. She had always been the center of attention. No matter where she went, everyone would fawn on her and crowd around her. When had she ever been pushed aside like this? Even Gu Fangzi didn't dare to steal her limelight. Whether she appreciated it or not was her business, but she would never allow others to ignore her, no matter who it was. Sure, Yume coldly snorted. She deliberately passed between the two of them and heavily bumped into Shirlian. She coldly said, I don't dare. You guys go ahead. I'll go wherever I want to go. I don't want to spoil your fun. I'm an eyesore. Sangwon was about to speak when Shirlian cried out in pain. She bent down and hugged her left leg. Young miss. Kai Yin was shocked and hurriedly supported her. It turned out that when Shi Yume bumped into Shirlian, her body was involuntarily knocked into the carriage. The carriage shook slightly, and her left leg happened to reach the side of the wheel. The horse pulling the carriage was shaken, and unconsciously took 2 steps forward. The wheel heavily pressed on Shirlian's instep. What's wrong with you? Sangwon was shocked and hurriedly supported Shirlian. The Shi family's carriage was built with exquisite materials and workmanship. It was wider and taller than ordinary carriages. It weighed 300 to 400 pounds. How could Shirlian, a delicate young lady, not feel pain when it was pressed on her foot? Shirlian's tears jumped out. Her face was pale and her facial features were distorted. The piercing pain made her chest shrink into a ball. She almost couldn't breathe. She grimaced and tightly held Sangwon's arm. She just shook her head and wanted to say something, but no words came out. Are you all right? Does it hurt a lot? Sangwon slightly frowned and said to the helpless coachman, Why are you still in a daze? Quickly go find a doctor. Sure, you may stop the coachman. She faintly glanced at Shirlian's foot and saw that it wasn't bleeding. She faintly said, It was just a light touch. Is there a need to act like this? Or are you trying to show? Do you want me to apologize to you because you feel wronged? Eldest sister, how can you say that? Sangwon angrily said. I'm talking to my younger sister. It's none of your business. Sure, Yume sneered and said, If you want to pretend, then pretend. Forgive this great aunt for not accompanying you. Coachman, drive the carriage for me. I want to go to Splendid House. This, great aunt. The coachman was in a difficult position and looked at Sangwon for help. On one side was his spoiled and arrogant great aunt, and on the other side was his future mistress. The coachman couldn't offend either side. What? Even you don't want to listen to me? Do you believe that I won't kick you out when we get back? Sure, Yume was so angry that her eyebrows were raised. You guys go, Sangwon said with a cold face. We'll go back by ourselves later. Eldest sister, I really admire you. Sangwon said and smiled at Shi Yume. Why did you suddenly think of dragging me to go shopping with you? Why bother? You don't like me, but you still insist on dragging me out. Isn't this clearly looking for trouble for yourself? Chapter 145. Shi Yume understood the meaning behind Sangwon's words. Seeing the ridicule in her eyes, Shi Yume was so angry that she felt dizzy. She glared at her, got on the carriage and left. Why? She was so bored that she wanted to torment Shi Yume, who knew that it would only make her angry. Under the guilty gaze of the coachman, the carriage quickly disappeared into the busy city. Eldest Miss is really Luya. Sangwon's tone was cold as she stared at Luya. No matter how bad a master was, she was still a master. It was not up to a servant to say anything. If these words reached Shi Yume's ears, Luya would definitely suffer. Luya's angry words came to an abrupt end as she lowered her head. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. It's all my fault for implicating you. Shirlian's eyes were wet as she said with a bitter smile. Don't say that. Sangwon felt even more sorry. She gently patted Shirlian's hand and said, If I didn't drag you along, you wouldn't be injured. Is it very painful? Can you still walk? Shirlian shook her head. Sister-in-law, don't say that. It has nothing to do with sister-in-law. She tried to walk, but the piercing pain hit her. Her feet were weak, so she groaned and leaned on Kai Yun, almost falling down. She said with a bitter smile, Sister-in-law, bear with it. We'll hire a carriage and go to the medical center. Sangwon saw that Shirlian's lips were about to break from biting, and there was a fine layer of sweat on her forehead and temples. She knew that Shirlian was really in pain and felt very sorry. Sister-in-law, it's okay. I can bear with it. Shirlian's eyes were hot, and she almost cried again. Since her concubine mother passed away, no one really cared about her except Kai Yun. She could clearly see the concerned expression on Sangwon's face. Silly sister. Don't cry, don't be afraid. Sister-in-law is here. Sangwon didn't know what Shirlian was thinking. Thinking that she was in pain and afraid, he hurriedly hugged her and gently patted her back. This street was a high-end shopping area. Almost everyone who came here to shop didn't use their own carriages. Those who relied on renting small carriages basically had no business here. Over time, naturally, no one was willing to come here. Sangwon and the others waited for a long time, but there was not a single rental carriage passing by. Seeing that Shirlian's foot seemed to be a little swollen, Sangwon couldn't help but worry. Luya, go to the restaurant across the street and ask if they have a sedan chair. Ask the owner to send a sedan chair over to pick up 3rd Mississippi. Let's go to the restaurant and sit for a while. Ask the waiter to help hire a carriage. Sangwon instructed as she looked at the magnificent delicacies restaurant across the street. Luya was overjoyed and hurriedly nodded in agreement. Young mistress' idea is still the best. Saying this, she turned around and left. Luya hurriedly crossed the street and walked towards the delicacies restaurant. Her footsteps were too hasty, and when she entered the door, she bumped into someone with a bang. I'm sorry. Luya hurriedly nodded and bowed in apology. Do you have eyes? Where did you bump into? Are you in a hurry to be reincarnated? Before the man who was bumped into could speak, the manservant beside him had already scolded her with a face full of disgust. Luya felt that his words were unpleasant to hear. She raised her head and glared at him. Just as she was about to retort, a surprised voice came from above her head. It's you. It was the man who was bumped into. Luya slightly retreated and looked at him in confusion. Her pupils suddenly shrank and she hatefully glared at him as she spat. So it's you lecher. Look after your dog, don't let it out to bark. Who are you calling a dog? The manservant was angry. You've already agreed, yet you're still asking me. Luya sneered. You. The manservant rolled up his sleeves and rubbed his palms. Back down, don't be rude. Zhuang Weixian scolded the manservant. He looked at Luya and asked with a smile. Why are you here? The manservant, Gao Wang, didn't dare to disobey his master. He glared at Luya and reluctantly retreated. Luya didn't want to lose out and glared back at him. She then angrily said to Zhuang Weixian, I'll go wherever I like, it's none of your business. As she spoke, she walked past him and went straight to the counter on the side. Zhuang Weixian smiled and slowly followed her with his hands behind his back. He stood not far away from her. Luya noticed it and turned her head to glance at him unhappily. But everyone came to this restaurant, and it was their business to stand wherever they liked. Luya didn't want to complicate things, so she endured and didn't say anything. She took out a 10-tael banknote and gently pushed it to the counter. She smiled and said, Is there a private room in the restaurant? Can you book one for me? The shopkeeper didn't say anything, but Zhuang Weixian chuckled and continued to watch the show with interest. The shopkeeper frowned and didn't look at the banknote from the corner of his eyes. He lightly said, There's no more. There's no more. Luya was anxious. She thought for a moment and said, Then book a table in the lobby. Pick a seat in the corner. There's no more. The shopkeeper shook his head and smiled. He kindly pointed out, Miss, when you go out, turn left. After 2 blocks, turn right. There are many small shops there. Miss, you can go there and ask. That's too far. Luya shook her head. Her eyes swept across the lobby and she pointed. Shopkeeper, there's obviously an empty table. Why can't you book one for me? Miss, the shopkeeper was worthy of being in the service industry. His attitude was really good. He patiently explained to Luya, "Our restaurant's cheapest dish costs 5 taels. If a meal isn't close to 100 taels, it's at least 70 to 80 taels. If Miss really wants to book a table, then book it." So expensive. Luya was shocked and her eyes widened. Her face was full of pain. The cheapest dish cost 5 taels. Her monthly salary was only 3 taels. The shopkeeper smiled and didn't comment. "Miss, you should find another restaurant." "No." Luya's reaction made the shopkeeper stunned. Zhuang Weixian's thick eyebrows slightly raised, but he didn't find it strange. To be able to be the servant of his mother's guest, the master of this little girl's house shouldn't be shabby. How could she not be able to afford a meal? Luya said, "So there's a private room, right? No matter how much it costs, please book one for me. Also, my family's young Mrs. Foot is injured. Please send a small sedan chair to follow me across the street to pick her up." "Miss," the shopkeeper couldn't help but take a look at Luya's clothes. It was a thin cotton-padded jacket with a pea-green floral pattern. Her hair was pinned with a jeweled flower hairpin and an exquisitely made pink silk begonia flower. On her left wrist was a beautiful green jade bracelet. She seemed to be the head servant of a rich family. The shopkeeper secretly felt lucky. Fortunately, he was polite to this little girl before. He tentatively asked, "Yes, but according to the rules, you have to pay a deposit of 100 taels. 100 taels? That's so much." It was true that Luya had 200 silvers worth of banknotes in her arms, but that was Sangwon's pitiful private stash. Giving it away like that really made her heart ache. After thinking about it, Luya smiled and asked, "Can I put it on the tab?" "Put it on the tab and you can ask my family's young master or the housekeeper for it. In any case, this mess was caused by Yume. So why should their young mistress be the one to clean up the mess? If the housekeeper didn't pay for it, his young master would." Luya's abacus was brilliant. "Put it on the tab?" The shopkeeper looked at her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. He thought that this little girl was really interesting. He then asked lightly, "Which family in the city do you belong to? And your young master is?" Luya thought that the shopkeeper had agreed and happily smiled. "My young master is the young master of the Shi family. Just put it on the Shi family's tab." "Shi family?" The shopkeeper hurriedly asked. "Which Shi family?" Luya was stunned and blurted out, "How can there be 2 Shi families? It's the Shi family in Qingxi Avenue. Your young master is the young master of the Shi family, the richest family in Qingzhou?" The shopkeeper was shocked. "Yes." Luya smiled and said, "Shopkeeper, my family's young mistress and third missy are still waiting opposite. Quickly find a sedan chair and follow me." Please wait a moment, I'll go now." The shopkeeper nodded and hurriedly ordered his staff. "You're a Shi family's little girl?" Zhuang Weixian also went forward in surprise. "Young Master Zhuang, when did you arrive?" The shopkeeper hurriedly came out from the back and bowed with his hands clasped in front of his chest. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "This old one has poor eyesight and didn't see young Master Zhuang. Please forgive me." Zhuang Weixian purposely stood at a position where the shopkeeper couldn't see. He smiled and waved his hand, not minding. The shopkeeper hurriedly smiled and invited him upstairs. "The room you booked is the second room on the west side of the second floor. It's already prepared. Please go ahead." "No hurry, you don't have to entertain me. Just entertain this young lady. I'll go up myself later." Zhuang Weixian smiled and glanced at Luya. "Kiki, thank you for your understanding, young Master Zhuang." The shopkeeper hurriedly smiled at Luya and said, "The sedan chair will be here soon, please wait a moment." "Thank you, shopkeeper." Luya smiled and nodded, not even looking at Zhuang Weixian. Zhuang Weixian felt hurt and was indignant. This was the second time he was despised by someone since he was young. The key point was that the first time was also by her. Even a little girl from the Shi family was so arrogant? No, other girls weren't like this, but Lan Xiang wasn't. This little girl's eyes grew on top of her head. "You're really a Shi family's little girl?" Zhuang Weixian looked at her with a smile. "What does it have to do with you? I'm warning you, stop talking nonsense. This young lady hates people like you who hit on her for no reason." Luya said fiercely. Hey, 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 how can you say that? Gao Wang was so angry that he wanted to jump up, but he could only shrink back after being glared at by Zhuang Weixian. So fierce. Didn't your master teach you the rules? Zhuang Weixian smiled. What does it have to do with you? Luya impatiently walked to the side, away from this boring person. Zhuang Weixian smiled and said, It has nothing to do with me, but look who's here. This has to do with you. Zhuang Weixian smiled and pointed at the door. Shifengji was walking in with Chang Huan. Eldest young master. Luya exclaimed and hurriedly ran over. Eldest young master. Luya was elated and smiled brightly from inside out. She finally saw her family's backbone. She found her backing. Luya. Shifengji was shocked. Why are you here? He looked around and asked, Where's young mistress? You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.